All right, guys, we're going to let the chat come in for a bit. Do shout outs. Oh, thanks. Already one thumbs up. Three thumbs up. Oh my goodness.
Are we on already?
We're on, but we're
Oh,
not going to start talking until people come in. We got 15 people. What's up, Sandy Joy? Mad Benjamin. Good evening. Mad Benjamin says, Wayne and Julie in the house.
peace.
It's Asian.
I can't see what anyone's saying, which is good.
Oh, here. That's Sandy Joy. That's Mad Benjamin. And here's Jason Thomas, Drew William G. AM. How's it going? Oh, people are coming in.
Cool.
Wizard Gizzard says, Rip Doyle, you missed. Somebody from France.
Oui.
What's up, Nick from Yuma?
Bonjour.
Daniel Mark says, Julie, very pretty.
Oh, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, they behave better when I'm in here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, they
That's
know.
nice.
Yeah, I'll talk back and I'll boot them.
You'll get cut. It's okay, be honest. If it relates to poker, be honest.
Ryan Higgins says, love the show. Getting all right. We're at 55. We'll hit a little bit more, wait a little bit more for people to come in, and then we'll
Okay.
get started.
Awesome.
Yeah. Matthew B is from France. He says, hello from Francais.
Bonsoir, Mathieu.
Ooh, Paul Harris from the UK.
Hello.
David
Should we do
Fullitz.
accents?
Yeah, sure. I was challenged to do like English accents and
Let's
stuff.
hear it. I already did it.
No, no. I can't top.
Everybody probably, I always speak French to Sammy the dealer, so
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of obnoxious, but
Why?
what else can you do with French these days?
I don't know.
Speak to Sammy.
What was it? There's Forget Paris. There was like Natalie Portman was in the something else Paris, like Hello.
Oh, yeah. It was like five
I
stories.
love you,
so-
Paris, or something
right,
like that.
right.
Je t'aime.
Je t'aime, Paris.
Yeah, Paris. Yeah. All right. See.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
And there's I love
Wayne's
New
a
York.
very knowledgeable film guy. Am I supposed to look at you or look there?
No, look here. But you
Okay.
can look to me if we're
Wayne
talking.
is a very knowledgeable film buff, which
So-
I love about him.
No. When my first interview at the UCLA MFA program, I forgot the guy's name, but he was like, "What's your favorite Kurosawa film?" I'm like,
Oh, God.
"Never seen one."
Oh,
And he's
God.
like, "Yeah." He's like, and he literally like his face just like went stone, and he's like, "All right, what's your favorite classic film?" I'm just like, "Oh, I mean, I've watched
You went with, like, an
Casablanca,
80s film?
Godfather." No, because like.
You
I
need to
don't
go
know.
classic.
Yeah. He dug deep, and I'm just like, and his face was just like, ooh. And he's had a movie with Robin Williams in it, and like he just like so he's like, okay, so what's your favorite movie? I'm like, Good Will Hunting. He's like
That was a good one.
okay, we'll start there. And then basically half the interview was about blackjack and poker,
Oh,
like
really?
very little about
That's,
screenwriting.
yeah, that's all they want to talk about.
Yeah, and then the second one was Chris Young, and he's still a professor there. The other one's not a professor there anymore, and he was just more engaged. He'd actually read my script, unlike the first guy, and then just talked about that and just why I was inspired to do so, and that was a lot better. So,
So what is your favorite classic film,
um,
now that you've said that? Not Good Will Hunting.
okay, so I mean, man, like.
Godfather?
I did.
Everybody says
Yeah,
Godfather.
I liked Godfather. I liked Casablanca. I did not understand Citizen Kane, and I think I said that, and then the first interview was like, he's just like aghast. I'm like,
Did you get to the end?
Rosebud? Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's all about that.
yeah, I mean, I liked Kubrick, some of Kubrick stuff, and
Yeah.
just I don't know. The thing is, like, I guess if you watch, like, people always are attached to stuff when they watch them when they're teenagers.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
or early 20s. By the time I was applying to the screenwriting program, I was already like 30 or something. So, and then I'm watching these films in retro.
Right.
So I'm just like, I just didn't feel them. And by then also the internet technology was coming out, like cell phones and stuff. And it could not relate.
I know. I have a lot of young people that, like people I mentor, people in my office, and, they'll say, oh, I saw this really great classic, and it'll be like something from the 80s. And I'm like,
like
That's not a
Spielberg's.
classic. Well, I guess. I mean,
Even
they're still classics.
yeah,
Raging Bull's a classic. It's all good, you know. Godfather. I mean, 70s, 80s. My favorite era is the 70s movies. I wish I was born in the wrong time. I wished I lived.
like which ones from the 70s?
Like all the Hal Ashby movies, like Shampoo and Being There, and I just saw that Tarantino movie, and I was like, I wished I lived in LA in like late 1960s, like early 70s, when when Spielberg and
Lucas.
Lucas and Marty Scorsese, when they were all coming together.
Actually, Richard Walter, the head of the screenwriting department at UCLA, was also in their class.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so that class is just like boom, like so.
Actually, Spielberg didn't. Did he go to USC? No. I was
I thought
thinking
he
that.
did. I thought Spielberg,
I thought
Lucas were all the
maybe
same
maybe
year.
they were. I don't know, but there's that book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which is like one of the great. That whole era of movies, that's my favorite. So yeah, I like to go back and reference 30s movies to be like educated, but it's not like I sit around and watch them, to be honest.
Yeah, recently
To be fair.
Ariana Grande did a Sound of Music, like one of the like the Raindrops and Roses song, and that's from Sound of
Yeah.
Music. So they're bringing it all back. But they're here to talk about poker. So
Okay, yeah,
let's
poker.
get started. This
We're
is
talking about
Julie Yorn.
rounders. Yes, hi.
Yeah, okay, we could do that too. That one I'm an expert on.
Yeah.
Um, this is Julie Yorn, this producer, Hollywood producer of many films. I don't even know how long it is because I went to your IMDb. I'm like, holy cow. But you also
Many.
produced Hell or High Water, which has 4 Oscar nominations, which is on Netflix right now. It's a Western film, so check it out. Don't want to be a hypocrite, so I will check it out like this week. I wanted to check it
Wayne
out.
still hasn't seen it. It's okay.
I feel
Four
terrible.
Oscar nominations. It doesn't get. No.
No, it's on the
You would
list.
love it though, honestly. I know, like JJ loves it. A lot of people around here always talk about it, so
Is there a poker
it
scene?
gave me cred with a lot of. There is a poker scene,
Okay, good. And I
Yeah.
definitely have to watch it. And I'll
but
definitely do
I'll
hand
be
analysis.
honest. Like just a little sort of anecdote about that is it's truly like when I read the script, it was one of the best scripts I ever read, and it was one of the few scripts that the script the guy wrote that he like pressed send on is the movie we made. We didn't do. Like one or two little tiny notes, but not a lot of development.
Wow, that's
But
very rare.
the poker scene was the reason that like so many people fell in love with the script. And it
All right.
was so smart and so clever and so well choreographed. And it was the one scene in the movie that when we were editing and shooting and editing, it just didn't work as well on screen. And it's
Okay.
interesting because sometimes one of my sort of slight complaints about rounders is, they're like talking through the hand, like you must have kings, and I
Yeah.
have, they're having all this dialogue which you don't have. His was so much more elegantly written, like a true poker scene, that when you actually put it like on its feet it didn't make as much sense. So the dynamics of like what he was doing when he had the nuts, and then the guy outdrew him, and then he had the nuts. So it was like the dance of it didn't come to life. Watch it, and then we'll discuss
I
it.
will. And I
For
can't
those
cop
of you out
out.
there who've
I can't cop out from watching because I have to come back here. So within
That's
like
right.
X time,
I'll
I
be
will.
on your thing. Who's on next week? I'll be writing you.
Mamacita's on next week.
Okay, well, Mama Sita,
No,
maybe
I'm in-
she's seen it. I don't know.
Well, I'll make whoever see it, especially if I'm into it. So let's start with the Julie Yorn story, then
Okay.
move into the Julie Yorn poker story.
Okay.
So go ahead with the Julie
From
Yorn
birth?
story. Yes, or wherever you want to start.
The Julie Yorn story is not, I don't know. What's interesting, grew up in New York, went to college in New Orleans, and fell in love with, well, I was always in love with movies, television, fell in love with music a lot in New Orleans, decided to move out to LA after college and pursue a job in the entertainment business, and sort of like meandered my way into producing. I don't think there's ever, I always tell people when they're like interviewing or pursue what they're pursuing, like there's generally not a straight line.
Yeah,
So it was kind of a
I agree.
non-linear path to where I got to, but ultimately for the last 15 years I've been producing. I mean, I produced my first movie just before that, but I've produced like 20 something movies. There's a lot of movies
There's a lot,
I've
yeah.
been involved in that I'm not credited on, but I was really a part of that were super exciting experiences. So that's the story.
And then
And
how
I'm
did
a
the poker
mom.
come in?
The poker came in, well, to be honest, like growing up, my mother was an obsessive gamer, puzzle doer, and game player. And she played penny poker. We lived in Italy when I was a child, and she would sit outside with the older Italian ladies and play penny poker. I guess it was like lira poker or whatever. But she always was into games, and we always played card games a lot growing up. And my stepfather taught me chess when I was like 7, and we would play intensively, like competitive chess. And I always wanted to learn like bridge and poker, and even with the old ladies at my grandmother's place where they played mahjong.
Hmm.
I was really into mahjong, and so you know, everybody says that's like more of like an Asian cultural upbringing, but in my Jewish cultural upbringing, it was like everywhere. And
Like any game involving money, you got to
any
just.
game involving, well, yes, the money part, it's different with maybe the Jewish people.
Just kidding.
But yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah, and puzzles, we always did puzzles. So I was always into it. I grew up playing draw poker like when I was a little kid and for money to go get ice cream. And then I would say probably maybe around the early 2000s, I sort of got more into it. I said this to Wayne before, but I've noticed that a lot of the female people you've had on the show
Yeah.
have referenced like they got into it by like sitting behind a boyfriend or something.
Right.
So I hate to say this, but I
Hey,
had a boyfriend who
y-
played a lot and played mostly to, I mean, I guess make ends meet, but he was, pretty much playing professionally. And so I started going to casinos with him, and he'd be like busy, so I'd go play the little game over there. I was like, "Can I have $60 to go?"
and now you're at the biggest games.
Yeah, I know. That's a slower evolution. But yeah, no, and he would usually if we played together in like home games and stuff, he would yell at me the whole car ride home about what I did wrong. So
Oh,
I learned the hard way. No, but yeah, I kind of got into it at that point, and for the first like 10 years, I was kind of only playing tournaments. I wasn't really playing a lot of cash games.
hmm.
And then
So a lot of people
now,
get started because
yeah,
it's like generally people who play cash are, I mean, they're playing for a living, or people who end up playing cash in tournaments. It's like they enter the tournament when they bust out, they take their remaining money and play cash.
yeah,
It's how you
that's how
people
I
usually
did
start.
it a little bit. And I always loved Vegas. I always went to Vegas a lot. So, but I loved all the table games and stuff. I still like to do that. And I'm kind of fascinated by like the whole odds thing of like all the games. Like I geek out on the
Oh,
Wizard of Odds and all that stuff, and I geek out on learning about like whenever there's a new game, like even like with short deck or something, like just
hmm.
watching people play and like
Yeah.
how they do it. I sort of find it really interesting. So
Well, you could have swept me mixed games.
we have to. You told
Okay,
me you
I'll
were
do
going
it.
to
Yeah.
teach me
Okay, I'll
Badoogie and
do that. Yeah,
Badesi,
yeah.
and
And open face Chinese poker, and then it's all over.
I
She'll
play
forget about
Pineapple
Hold'em.
on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, you started like in the mid 2000s. In 2006, you had a charity tournament with pros and celebrities, and what?
So yeah, so this friend of mine was putting together. It was actually during the Sundance Film Festival, and I was up there for business, and with that boyfriend who played, and
Just
he
say
wa-
it's Garrett. I'm just
he was he was no, the name can be he was going to play in it because he was sort of knew all the people involved, but it was half actors and half celebrities, and then I mean sorry, no, half celebrities and half pros.
yeah,
So like all the pros
right,
of
right,
the day were there,
yeah,
like everybody. And so I didn't really know a lot of them. I mean, I knew like I played with Andy Duke around LA and some girl games we played in, and I knew a couple of the female players. I think Jennifer Harmon, but I didn't really know a lot of the other people. So they said to me, "We're gonna have a seat. We're gonna free roll you into the tournament." I was like, "Great!" I didn't even
yeah,
know what that meant. So I basically sat down because I'd been playing these like little home tournaments
yeah,
where, you know. You could win like you bought them for 200, you could win 1,000. And that
yeah.
was like this was the first prize was $1 million condo in Vegas,
Hmm.
and so the whole night I was the chip leader. And I was sitting, Helmuth was directly to my left. He was emceeing the event. He was kind of half, I think he was phoning it in the first half. He was like kind of not half paying attention. But I was like collecting chips, and they kept coming over and taking my picture. And I didn't even really realize, and it was my boyfriend who walked over to me and he's like, you're playing for $1 million. You're really close to $1 million. Every time I got closer when it was down to 10, he's like, you're 10 away from $1 million. And I was like, stop. He's like, don't think about it. Don't put it
Right.
in my head. But yeah, I met, we were just talking about that the other day. I met Antonio Esfandari, who I later became really good friends with, and I met, Helmuth and all those guys there that night. But at the break, my boyfriend said, I said, do you have any advice? Do you have any like tips? He's like, well, just keep doing what you're doing. He's like, but you should just do something crazy, like just raise Phil Hellmuth with like anything, just bluff him out of a hand and then show him. And I was like, really? That seems so, this is my 2006 self. That seems so mean.
No, that's
And
what you're
he's
there
like,
for.
dude, that's what poker is. You got to
Yep.
do it. So I was just like, he has to know you're not playing like ABC or whatever. Because
Right.
I was bluffing, but I was like, la la la. They don't know
Not
I'm
as shown.
bluffing.
Yeah.
You know, and which you can get away with for a while until you play on streams.
Right. Right.
But then, so I did that. I had 4-7 off, made a huge, like I think 3-bet some raise, and or maybe 4-bet even. Like, I don't know. And Helmut sat there and he like tanked and then he folded.
And
And
you're
then
like,
everybody folded, and I like tabled it,
yeah.
and the guy was like, "What?" and just like had it in for me the whole night, which I don't know if that was good advice. He won.
Hmm.
He won the tournament. I didn't. I came in seventh, but I only knew I came in seventh because we just looked it up because
Right.
I was like trying to remember the tournament and
It's
how
hard
I
to remember.
finished.
Yeah.
But I knocked out a few pros, and I sort of got like a little bit like excited about that. Like I can do this.
Right.
Little false sense of security, and
Yeah.
after that, yeah.
I mean, one of the fallacies of poker is like you win when you're dealt winner, like the winning
Yeah,
hand.
no,
So it's just like you could get a, confirmation bias, and just that's how it is.
well, clearly, I must have run really good that night. I don't recall. But I obviously found myself in really good spots to like beat out a lot of the pros, and they were all, leaving to go to dinner early. So,
No, just say you outplayed him. It's okay.
yeah. Oh, I outplayed. I outplayed you, Antonio.
I've never outplayed Antonio ever.
No, it's hard to do.
And he's yeah, I think he's like a fine wine. He's actually gotten better in time. So
He's awesome.
yeah. No, really.
He's awesome. I always am like, is he like, is he reversing me?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't tell it. It's so meta. It's like he's either like, I don't know. Yeah, he's
He
Jedi mind tricking.
Yeah, I mean, I had Dan, Zach, and I were talking about it in the previous show, where it's like we figured out that he actually knows what he's gonna do, right from the beginning, but he'll take his time to just like confirm what he's
Right.
gonna do, and and the thing is, like, most people don't have patience, so they'll crack, and then he kind of uses that to confirm. He has a really famous hand with Daniel Negreanu, where Daniel Negreanu tries to do some like normal speech to like if you just heard the words, it would have properly deflected him, but they know each other, and Negreanu kind of cracked a little bit, and then Esfandiari knew to call, but of course, good call, but gets sucked out, standard poker. But
But
just
he made
yeah,
the right
he's
call when it was right. So
yeah, so he's really well suited for no limit hold'em, and just like I've been playing with him for like I don't know over 15 years, and like I knew who he was, he didn't know who I was, and then just like well, he knew who I was when we were playing eventually, but not like personally, so to say. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about him or
oh
Phil
my God,
Locke.
he's
I
the
have like
best.
only good things to say about him. He's like you hear about people who are on TV players who are like mean in real life. He's just like gentlemen both on and off.
And here's the other thing: his wife is a sick player, and nobody knows that.
I've never played with
And
her. Yeah, I've met her.
she's
Yeah.
great, and she's played I think 3 or 4 main events now, and she cashed in 2 of them. She went
Wow.
super deep, and
Yeah.
her dad was final,
Pro.
yeah,
Yeah.
November Niner guy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how much we're
Amal,
supposed to
shout
say.
out to Amal.
I don't know how much we're supposed to
What?
say on it. I know. I don't know.
No, Bob Unhar, everybody knows that.
I don't
She
know. I
was,
literally don't know because like
oh.
when I talked to him, it was supposed to be on the DL, but I don't know what the
No,
current status
she's
is. Okay.
famously the daughter of a
Okay.
very prestigious Belizean poker player, but she's really good.
Yeah. And
And
she's very
so,
beautiful. Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful,
And
lucky people,
And the
lucky,
kids are beautiful.
beautiful,
I've
all
only, I've
beautiful,
only seen the older one.
both beautiful. Anyway,
Anyway, some people don't know what movie producers do,
okay.
so you want to explain?
Um, it's a hard thing to define because it's so many things, and the properly like the best producers do everything. And so soup to nuts, like for me, I mean, every project comes about differently, but let's say I find an idea or a book or a story or somebody comes and pitches me something. Sometimes it's an existing script. Sometimes I'll jump onto things that are already kind of in process, but mostly I originate them from like something like just an idea. Um, like Ken, who was on, he's always like, The Other Woman. That's the movie he loves the most. I know other people talk about Hell or High Water, but he loves Other Woman. Another Woman was like a friend of mine and I thinking, sitting around thinking about how to build a movie around like two women and Cameron Diaz and what would it be? And we came up with this idea and we hired a writer and then got a script and then got Cameron and got the director, who's actually a poker player, Nick Cassavetes,
Oh, I know,
and
yeah.
like got the financing pretty early on that one, but usually putting the financing together, and then there's the actual, and this is the part I love being like a puzzle game nerd, is you sit there and you're like, okay, you have a script, you have this many days to shoot it, you have this much money to spend, and
Right.
it's like a constant puzzle. So like I have a little movie that's going in New Mexico in 2 weeks, and I was on the phone with them on the way here, like moving budget stuff around. It's just always like figuring out how to work around problems. Like, remember that location we thought we have? We don't have anything now. We have to like create something out of nothing. So it's constant troubleshooting, problem solving, and then just on a creative level, shaping the story, making sure you're getting the story across. Like what I was talking about with Hell or High Water. Like there's a scene that reads so good on the page,
But hard.
hard to mount. And
Yeah.
one thing I learned really early on with producing was I remember one of the first movies I worked on that we were all sitting around in a room. Let's say you have like a script that says, a guy walks to the door with a bag. Like one person would think it was a poor person walking in a like,
Right.
in a like shack, and the other person would think it was a man. Like you have to make sure that communicating, everybody's communicating. So like every department head, I've walked onto sets where you're like, there's a production designer that had a totally different concept of what it was, and you realize the director and he weren't talking. That's bad producing.
Right.
So it's kind of just constantly keeping communication circulating, making sure everybody knows what everybody's doing. And yeah, I think that, and then there's the whole post process and then getting the movie out into the marketplace. So there's different phases, but mostly it's just like literally pushing a huge boulder up a hill every day.
Yeah. No.
And the fact is like people don't know how hard it is because I've had people who've like produced their first movie and they call me and they're like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is impossible."
Right.
Every day something's work. It's literally dodging bullets.
Yeah.
It's not just like moving things forward. Nothing moves forward. It's keeping things from
From going
just
bad.
disasters.
Yeah.
Like yeah. And you're like the adult. You're the grown up at the table as the producer. You're the sort of end all like answer to person.
Right.
And then you answer to the money usually, so whoever's putting money up,
Yeah. So
studio or otherwise.
two producers I had more contact with. One, Martin Schaefer from Castle Rock, he's the
Amazing.
CEO. So the first time I sent something to him, he gave me personal feedback, which obviously I'm grateful for, and he gave me like a kind of like slap in reality because I had a spy thrower and all these action pieces, set pieces, and then he's like, "You're a first-time writer. No one's gonna put $100 million on your script," and I was like, "Oh yeah," because like I had all this original stuff, and then he's like, "The first 10 pages can cost $10 million." I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "This is a business." I'm like, "Oh, that's why they make sequels so fast." And
That's why
then
first time writers make $2 million, $3 million movies, two people sitting in a room
right,
talking.
yeah, no, but that was the important advice he gave. And the
Yeah.
second one was, like my leads were, I tried to make them like more interesting, original, maybe perhaps too much so because he was like, you need to have A-list actors like put in like molds so they read it and like a lot of A-list actors play similar characters over and over again. They're like, so that was like, oh yeah, makes sense because you need to
Yeah, you
have.
need star casting, you need
Yeah.
relatable, you know.
So then, the second one I did that I submitted was like a story producer at DreamWorks said if you, I wrote it with Asian leads, and they were like, if you change your leads to white, this may have a shot. This was like,
Way pre Crazy Rich Asians,
yeah,
best movie
definitely.
ever.
This was like 2000, shoot, I think 13, and
Now
then
everybody's looking for what's the next Crazy Rich
okay,
Asians.
well, I'll get
I'll
on it.
tell you, I one of my first great lessons I learned was one of my first movies ever, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was very like young and inexperienced, and I made this little movie called Eve's Bayou,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you didn't see that if you didn't see Hello. But it was
I'll
like
put it on the list.
literally about a young black girl growing up in the South, about voodoo. It's all female cast, so it's like period, child lead, like barely castable roles around it, voodoo and Cajun stuff and incest and
Oh
crazy
my.
stuff. And it's like every strike against it. And everywhere we went with it, everybody said, there's not an audience for this. There's no audience for this. And in those days, this was like, you know, I want to say like the late 90s. There really weren't a lot of movies for African American audiences. They were like New Jack City and that stuff, but it wasn't, this was like kind of a family drama. And so that movie went on to be like the number one independent grossing
Whoa.
movie of the year.
Mhm.
And it also, I remember Siskel and Ebert said it was the best movie of the year. And so we like got standing ovations at every festival, and it was a huge, and by the way, we made a lot of money on that movie. I still get checks on that movie.
Oh, sick.
So the fact is like, you just proved that there's no audience for this, that
Yeah.
I appreciate that that person at that moment in time said like nobody's going to make it with like an all Asian cast,
Hmm.
but you have like Fresh Off the Boat, you have all these movies being made
It
now.
was, yeah, it was pre that, and I don't want to name the producer, but he did Step Up 2 and 3, and
Look
it
it
just
up, people. IMDb it.
it's only so many people it could be. Yeah, I keep in touch with him from time to time, and same with Chris Young. Shout out to him, the UCLA professor. But like, yeah, he basically, I knew also when I said to him it wasn't good enough, and we were on the same page. But then he actually got a job from a subsidiary in Disney, which is like he had to take the job. He brought it over, and he's just like, yeah, they're not interested. So I'm like, all right.
Maybe
And
not Disney. True.
huh?
Maybe not Disney.
I don't know. It was a subsidiary of Disney.
Oh, I
I
was
know
going to
the
say it's not
company
really
name.
Disney.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Mayhem actually.
Okay.
So, and
Mayhem.
I don't know. He said it was
No,
a
I thought you were
subsidiary.
segueing into poker. Mayhem. No, it's
No, we're gonna get your hand with Mayhem in a bit. Um,
Mayhem.
so yeah, well,
It's Tommy Lee.
so yeah, basically, the book's not closed for me. Every day I'm always thinking about stuff, and I know you, Weez, and a bunch of people are like very encouraging. Chris Young's like, and
Just do
it's
it.
going, it's going. No,
Good.
every day, literally, I'm putting more notes, and then have final draft and just
Now write something with an
spit
all
out.
Asian cast.
Oh no, no.
That'll go down. You know
Yeah.
what it is? Also, they realize that, like, you realize, and every time I've had a female movie, whether it was like Other Woman or this movie called Bride Wars, every time they're like, we don't know if there's an audience for female movies. Then the movie comes out,
And
and they're like,
boom.
where are all the girl movies? Like, it's
Yeah.
so annoying the Monday
The chicken,
morning
the egg.
after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're saying everybody wants a movie with an all-female cast. You just said you couldn't make it.
Right.
So I think with Hollywood, you have to really, like, you know, especially as a producer, like turn the noise off a lot and just go with your convictions. And
Right.
I think even with Hell or High Water, we were getting notes from people that were like, they didn't really know what to do with it. It wasn't really like, it was an independent, meaning like it should live in the art house theaters, but it wasn't really like an art house movie, the way The Favorite or something is. I don't know. One of those, costume dramas, but it was kind of actiony and heisty and Chris Pine and Ben Foster robbing banks, but it wasn't like a big, 3,000 screen action movie
Yeah.
like Fast and Furious or something.
Yeah.
So they really didn't know what to do with it, and it was so funny because I was like, oh my God, they're gonna not, this movie's just gonna disappear. And in the end,
You saved it.
we started getting reviews, and the reviews were so good that sort of like helped get,
Momentum.
and also we were like coming out at the end of a summer, which I think the movies mostly sucked, like basically, and also it spoke to like what was going on in this country, and it spoke to like a Trump America. It was sort of, about the economy and the lost American, sort of all these people in America, lost in America, and the banks and the sort of institutional versus the little guy. So
I
we
will.
won't get into politics, of course.
I will
don't
have
wanna
the
go into
review.
politics unless Nick
I'm on the
Fertucci
hook.
calls in.
No, he can. So yeah, and then I'm going to check out Hell or High Water as well. It's on
Yay.
Netflix, guys.
Okay.
It's a Western film, and it was on my list. I just wanted to watch it beforehand, but I was like rushing to get all this stuff. I've been on overtime.
It's okay. I'll give you a month, and
Okay,
then I'll
no,
give
no,
you a
2
hard
weeks
time.
max.
Okay.
Probably 1 week, but
Okay.
2 weeks max.
Everybody heard you. There's
Yeah.
like
No, I know. I'm gonna get
how
called
many
out.
people are in this that they're
Oh, let's see.
let's see.
Oh, we got 150 here, and we have we have over 200.
Okay.
Um, let's see. So yeah, then another question is, how do Hollywood and poker mix?
Wow.
Because yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
In terms of
Just how the worlds
jobs,
mix.
the world. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I would say that for the larger part of like the last 10 years, the majority of like my poker has been like at Hollywood home games with
Mhm.
just friends from the business, some like networking, I guess people were doing. I had for a long time like one monthly game, and it was pretty much all, it wasn't all entertainment industry people. There were like other
Yeah,
people from
there's
other
like some,
industries, but
yeah.
there were like also some celebrity players there. And then an agent friend of mine used to have a monthly tournament, so he would like mix. I mean, again, I think he had a few people that weren't like in the business, but it was a lot of producers, executives, and yeah, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of people interested in it that play it, and I
Sure.
ended up, like Kevin Pollock's had. I've been playing in his game for the last 10 years, and he always has a good mix of people. Like he has some really great, like usually there's a few regs, and then there's like the guest star, like the person
Nice.
that's comes to like, crash the game. But yeah.
And we're the writers game that
Oh
I
yeah, in
brought to
that
the
game.
show. Yeah, shout out to Jamie Ronheimer, Dave Bickel, David Fury,
Yo.
Tony, all those. Yeah, so
Those
this,
guys were gracious enough to include me in the game. I think that they had never had a woman in the game before.
I mean, I think that they're all, and most people when they think Hollywood home game, they think of all the crazy stuff. They're like the most tame. They're like
Oh no,
very,
they're totally tame.
yeah,
No, they're great. And the only issue I had with it was in Burbank at like 7 o'clock, and so I always had a hard time getting on that
oh
side of
yeah,
town.
it's yeah,
But they're awesome, and they were super sweet because they were like, "Yeah, we need a player," and they were great to play with. And then I got to play with some of them on our Live
on
at
the
the Bike
last
show.
Hollywood
Yeah,
writer game. Yeah,
yeah. And then, of course, that's where I like sort of semi met Wayne from because he was we were always on the same emails, and um, I
yeah.
was always like, I'd go there and I'd be like, "Who's here?" And I was like, "Wayne's not here tonight," but that was how we kind of like first initially. Martin Schaefer used to have a great game I played in like years ago, but then he started playing exclusively mixed games. So,
Yeah.
but I played in a no limit like game at his house like once or twice, and with his wife too, who's like an amazing player.
I've played mixed game with his wife. I played with PLO with him, and yeah, they're very nice people.
And she really was like such a badass with her playing. Carol Fuchs, like if anybody
Shout out
knows
to
her,
Carol.
she's
Yeah,
like a bracelet winner, like awesome
I
player.
didn't know that.
You didn't know that? I
I
think
didn't know
she's
that.
won like two bracelets actually.
Oh wow,
I
it's
think.
way ahead of all you guys and
Yeah,
me.
and she's just a killer player. Although every time I see her, I only run into her. It seems like at the main event or whatever. But she'll be like, "Oh, I don't really play No Limit Hold'em," but she's so good at it, and
Right.
she's like, obviously, Anyway, I remember playing with her, and I was like, she had been a screenwriter, so I was like, oh, she can do both. Like she
Yeah.
grinds it out a lot. They have a place in Vegas. They play a lot, so
Go.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People tend to shy away from No Limit after they start playing the other games because two cards is boring.
I know, I know. I agree. I've like started, I play a lot of PLO and yeah. I said, what's the difference between PLO and crack? Do you know that joke?
I mean, I've heard something similar.
You
It's
can
just like,
stop smoking crack.
yeah, something like that.
So yeah, I mean PLO is awesome, but it's also like maddening, and
Very
it's
addicting. Yeah.
I haven't like quite like I guess like studied it. Like I've at least worked on my other
Okay, we can
games.
do that. I
So
have a ton of hands on there in commentary, but
but I find it like it's I to me it's been much more luck dependent in terms of
you
like your
have to run
strategy.
like you could that more so than a lot of other games. You could play well, and it doesn't
It
matter. The
doesn't matter.
cards screw you. You are
And it's like up and down.
so
You're like
screwed.
nuts busted, nuts busted.
Yeah, there's like you could have the nuts, and then the river's like boom, even worse than Hold'em because the Hold'em is like okay, it's just a flush draw or something like that. For PLO, it's like flush draw, straight draw, full house. It's like they have a million draws. Like
Right, you're like I have the nuts and I have a redraw to the other nuts, and
yeah,
yet
and of
somebody else
course they
still.
hit their stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Maddening.
So you've also played in Poker Go and Live at the Bike. So you have
Yeah.
any difference?
What's the difference? The lighting is better on Poker Go.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. No. Let's see. I played. You mean the poker night?
I remember
The one
seeing
I
you on
did.
Poker
Yeah, I
Go.
did
Yeah.
one. I went with Antonio and played a game,
Oh, yeah.
which was like kind of a. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I got there and it was like kind of a sick lineup, and I was like, ugh. I was definitely the only non-pro there, and it was like Antonio, Tom Marchese, like all these guys, and yeah, for a long time I was like. biggest money winner in the game. So, and I ended up only three people won in the game, and I ended up being one of the three.
Nice.
But I won a lot, and then I gave some of it back. Aces cracked. Antonio cracked my aces,
Yeah, he does that.
and he does that, and he also, yeah, he cracked like three people's. It was sick that night, but it was really fun, and yeah, and Jeff Gross was like, I love that guy. So yeah, it was really a fun game. And I'd love to play that again, but I told them they needed to do a ladies game. But we're going to do a ladies game here too with my lady friends.
Okay, all right.
And then yeah, I played like Poker Night Live, which was like
Poker Night in
where
America.
they were like no, it was like this Poker Night Live thing that Joe Stapleton played with you at the table and emceed it at the same time.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
don't
you have
know.
to watch that.
Okay.
But you know, nothing's like live at the bike. That's like awesome.
That's right. Only watch live.
No, I mean it really is. It's like I think it's like I feel like some of those other shows are a little more like I feel like Live at the Bike's a real like peek into like a real like
It's more real
serious.
poker,
It
yeah.
feels like it to
Yeah,
me. It feels like when I watch poker. I mean, I love watching obviously like watching that
Trying,
Triton
yeah.
thing that was like awesome.
Yeah.
But with those kind of stakes, like especially when you watch, I like watching some of those like Macau crazy like high stakes games where you're like watching
Yeah.
people play for. But I feel like for good old American poker, like Live at the Bike's kind of like right
It's the
the
practical
balance.
stuff because it's supposed to be half and half. It's like entertainment, but also like these are like realistic situations that you handle, with these stakes, which is that was kind of the point of the product.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, I know, and I've seen like when I've played on the stream sometimes like I've seen chats where maybe I shouldn't have looked, but I saw
mean,
mean chats. But some people would be like, "Is she talking still?" But I'm like, you're also supposed to be sort of like you have cameras on you. I
yeah,
mean, you're not supposed to be 1,000% of the time. Like, I mean, you're supposed to somewhat entertain
yeah,
each
that's
other.
yeah,
You're also try sitting in a 4 or 5 hour game without talking to each other. Everybody
it's
talks to each other.
yeah. I mean,
Table chat.
like a lot of
It's
the
okay. What are they saying?
viewers, um, a lot of viewers. I'll get their questions in a bit, but Julie is the man. She's
I like that.
woman.
I like that.
That's Chad the crazy, right? He's always in there. Yeah, it's like we Live at the Bike has to put in people, at least some people who talk, or else it's just too silent. And um,
Imagine if you only had like Andy and Jew playing the whole time.
and it's
I
funny
love those guys. They don't say anything.
they do.
Sometimes I get Jew to laugh, and it's like my favorite thing on the planet is like I got this one.
I had lunch with Jew and a couple other people, like, and he talks a little, but Andy actually talks if you
No,
go
I
out to
know.
dinner and lunch with him. So
The best is yeah. The best somehow is getting him to like smile. I played with him for like years where I was like, this guy's not gonna smile.
yeah,
You have to have a little. I mean, that's what I like. Garrett loves to like converse and like
right.
other people. So I mean, I really appreciate that, and I think like other players appreciate
Yeah,
if you come to the table willing to like
yeah.
talk
You
about
want
like
to, yeah,
movies or talk about other things like in between hands.
yeah. Like
Maybe I talked during a hand. Somebody was mad about that. That's
I don't
okay.
know. Is they
They also don't know that if I'm mic'd over here and they're playing the hand down there, like they're not listening to me. They're like
like
picking me up in the mic.
right. But the viewers often say conflicting things, and we have to make a
It's
choice.
true.
So oftentimes, like each show, there's more of a theme, like regs, or every Wednesday, which I have is like either a different game or a specific group. This Wednesday is going to be the Instagram game, so it's like people at least know each other because
What's an Instagram game?
like Instagram poker stars, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want
I
to know
think
who's
JJ
on
does the
that.
scheduling, so I don't
Okay.
know. So I don't know who's actually in there, but like poker is really big on Instagram, so it's like a different culture, and like basically every place is different culture. Like Reddit poker, 2+2, Instagram, YouTube, it's all So and everyone just develops. So it's like all of these things just help keep interest in poker,
Hmm.
and like some people were ripping on vlogs, or some people rip on other things. Like it's a different demographic, and all of them exist, and just brings more people in. So it's like, why are you ripping on these other things? If anything, you should, even if it's not your cup of tea, just be like, oh, I'm glad that they're bringing more people in the game.
Yeah, of
So
course. Plus, there's nothing more entertaining than if you're watching poker. Like the one thing, I like the commentary. I know some people are like, "Oh, listen to the table talk." I don't know. That's a
well,
choice of how you balance that, but
yeah, we adjust. Yeah,
I think that the whole point of watching it is hearing also some expert analysis on what they think. I mean, obviously, it's somewhat subjective. I can tell you, we could sit here and talk
Absolutely.
about a
Yeah.
hand all day long, like what the right thing to do was. We all know
Yeah.
sometimes there's three or four right things to do, or an infinite number.
And there's some like you can have player history, which we're gonna have some hands where you could like if you just watch the singular hand, like the hand of the days. By the way, shout out to Patrick Curran who does all the hand of the days. He's in the chat now. So
Patrick's the best. By
yes,
the way, also killer player. I mean, like who knew? Like
he's
I didn't even know
he's
that.
quite insane in the
He's a
membrane,
very talented guy.
multi skills. But yeah, it's like if you only watch the single hand, you don't necessarily get the context. And like Andy, he gets ripped on for his big pot with Jackie, and it's like Andy and Jackie have played a lot. It's not just that
Of
stream.
course.
So
But also, who's going to say that Andy's not a phenomenal player? He's a phenomenal player.
sure,
And, listen, I've had this conversation with you before. It's so easy when you can see all the
right?
cards,
Yeah.
you know? Of
Um,
course. What do you mean? He had quads. Of course you have to fold that. I mean, it's like, obviously,
yeah, I don't know. It's just like I'll have him on the show, or I talked with him today, and we'll have him in maybe if he's on the game or commentary. But he would wants to say a couple things about the hand because like a lot of the analyses are too like cut dry ABC, like they don't have any history. But again, those analysis are often selling training sites, which is advocating
I
ABC
see.
play. So it's just like the chicken and the egg for like a lot of things. So it just like I think just
Who has the
obviously,
time?
huh?
Who has the time to do all? No, I'm saying
Oh
like to
yeah, yeah.
listen, here's the bottom line. It was like an unfortunate situation because
Right.
it was a big hand. It got a lot of attention, but
Yeah.
like the guy's a phenomenal player and like in the long run, like probably the way he played, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
I
enough.
don't know.
You know what? I don't know enough about the hand. I think I saw it once. I haven't like spent a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's just like when it's best when the commentator, like JJ and me, Jeremy and the others, basically we know most of the people, and if we don't know them, we can fill in the blanks like really quick, just watching them play for a little bit, and we know who has history and who's developing history, so we try to accommodate for that, as the stuff goes, and we try to balance, per audience suggestion, we try to balance the table talk and, the commentary. So we try to shut the fuck up when,
I know, but I think it's good. Like I've heard once in a while where you'll be looking at a hand and you'll say, somebody in the chat saying this, like not correcting them, but saying, you could say that, but you could also say this. But I think
yeah,
like looking at it from a lot of different sides is the best way for people probably to learn. I
yeah,
know I learn the most if, you go, okay, in this spot, you could do these, several different things, and
yeah,
every situation's different. And like you're right, you know, it's so hard to not know. I mean, I guess you see it on the stream, but the history of like if there's somebody who's like always bluffing me, it's so hard. Or even like for me, a new player, like when I sat down the other night and I hadn't played with Alec Torelli before,
hmm
and like three different times he just like, pummeled me on like the Turner River, and I was like, does this guy have anything? Is he just bluffing me? And then finally, I made a bad call, um, all in with pocket tens, which to be honest, like the guy, I thought he was bluffing me when I looked back at the stream and I looked at those hands later. He
hmm
had it every time.
yeah,
So
it just happens. Yeah,
it just happens,
yeah,
and tens probably in that spot. I didn't have that much money. I mean, relative to that game, I don't want to say I didn't have that much money. I had a lot of money, but relative to that game, I had like, you know, I I made that call. I probably was going to get there by the river anyway. Like with, I was
with the port.
I was committed basically to putting my stack in on that hand, thinking maybe I'm in a flip. Like who knows with
hmm
him, right? Tens, I don't know. So yes, I know people were critical of that, but
Yeah, so one hand that you had, which I had you and Mayhem, like the chat was criticizing you. I'm like, actually, no, the chat's wrong, and we're gonna explain why more when the hand comes up. And you got bluffed out by Garrett, and we're gonna talk about that one. And there's a couple hands in
hey,
between. Who hasn't been
who
bluffed out by
hasn't been
Garrett?
bluffed out? I'm in very good company.
Right.
I've
Like,
also bluffed him a few times, so there you go.
yeah, there you go.
It goes both ways.
Which poker player have you played with that you're most scared of?
Oh my
Because you play with
goodness.
so many people, Helmut this Diari, Garrett, blah blah blah, Andy.
I mean, let's see. And it's a compliment to them, right, that I'm saying this? I mean, I find
Absolutely.
Garrett to be, I definitely like take my time and really think through. Not that I don't do that all the time, but I find Garrett to be a super tough player. I see him make, I think, super sick reads on things.
Yeah.
like in the, footage I've seen him play in and live. I think I've played a lot with Brian Kim, who I think is like one of
It's
the
very
best
good. Yeah.
players out there
Mhm.
personally. And I've seen him do some crazy shit that I'm like, whoa. And let's see, I don't know, like I find some people intimidating. Like there's a female player in LA I find slightly intimidating with,
You're not gonna
um,
name.
I don't know.
Can only be so many people. Okay, you don't
Yeah,
have to name her.
I don't know. I mean, I find her, she's aggressive and like in a way that, um, like I said, until you get used to people's flows, like I had no idea what I was dealing with like Alec the other
Sure.
night. Um, I have like, I didn't have the benefit of really watching a lot of his play, so
He's got a
uh,
lot of hands on.
I know. I
So
hadn't watched
that's
them.
okay. Yeah.
I
Who has
had
time?
watched. Who has time?
Yeah.
No, I had
You
watched
gotta
Garrett's
play.
stuff and Andy's, and I find, I think Andy's obviously really good. I mean, listen, I'm intimidated by any really good player. Antonio's just like, I mean,
Yeah. Some people I know better than others, so I know kind of their strength, especially
yeah.
after playing so long. So
Yeah, I'm intimidated. But the thing about Antonio is he knows my play so well that like he won't, he'll know when I
yeah.
have it, I think, most of the time.
He also knows when I have it
Can't make
too.
a lot of money off of him. So anyway.
So you as well as other players on the show have been shocked at the mean comments in the chat,
Yes.
but you also compare it to like feedback on a film.
Right.
So how do you describe this?
Um, well, I think I was commenting about the chat one day, and I think you probably, or JJ, somebody, I know you've said to me before, well, don't read it. And I'm like, you know what? Like, well, first of all, I can't really read. I can't read it while we're playing
Yeah, I
anyway,
can't. Yeah.
but like sometimes I'll catch little bits of it. If, so once in a while I'll like sneak into the look and see what's,
Yeah, away from the table. Yeah.
well, no, or by the way, sometimes when I get up to go to the ladies' room and they're putting it on the big screen, I'm like, that's what they had in that hand.
Yeah.
Mostly, I'm going back to look at what people had in hands against me,
Mm,
obviously, while I'm still in the game sometimes, but I can't.
not
You
supposed
guys have a
to.
no phone rule. I know it's so annoying.
Not supposed to, but
No, I
you
know.
can't stop anyone. Yeah.
Or I'll just say to somebody like, "You got to find out and text me what that person had." But most of my friends won't sit around and watch
Right.
live streams. But no, I think that I was like taken aback on one or two things like that. People get so personal, and I think I was told that they're rougher on the female players sometimes.
Yeah, quite frequently.
But I think that what I think I said was like I think there's value actually in hearing criticisms. Not like I don't need to hear personal criticisms like they didn't like the way my hair looked or something. Like I can't tell you how many comments I got about
Hair's great. Come on, look
my
at this.
hair. Come on,
She got
dude,
her hair did.
dude, my hair. What's wrong with my hair? No, I guess sometimes it gets a little like messy when I'm playing. Um, but like I'm surprised if like male poker players sit around and like talk about a female player's hair, which is
Sure.
funny. Like you could say I suck at the game or like
Yeah.
I shouldn't have folded some hand. I guess to me the thing that's interesting about chat in general, whether it's about poker or anything, is there are trends that are interesting to look at. So like what I think, one thing we had talked about was when we do like test screenings for movies
Hmm.
and you bring in like 300 people and you give them cards and you tell them to write like anonymously what they think of your movie. It's such a painful process. I don't take it as personally like, but the directors, it's really hard on them or the
Oh
writers and the
yeah.
actors.
Yeah.
But I'm very objective about the whole process. But I really encourage directors. I'm like, don't listen to what like two or three stupid people say. And there's always some guy in like the focus group who's like in film school, and they'll be like, "Well, the denouement." They're trying to like impress. Like they know the studio and the filmmakers are sitting
Yeah.
behind them, so they're trying to impress them. But there are like things when people go, "I didn't understand the beginning." Like if 5, 7, 10, 12 people are saying that, you're like, okay. When 20 people say it, like you have a problem with the movie.
Right.
So I think that while I don't like to give a lot of like energy to like negative comments that are just mean for no
Yeah.
reason, like people are like, I know what happened was I was in a hand and I leaned back and I said to Nick, would you have folded that hand or something?
Hmm.
And somebody in the chat was like, is she still talking about her hand? Like,
Whoa.
I was like, I'm
So
talking to
what?
Nick. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, stay out of my way. I'm like, let's just say that. So yeah, I don't like. Obviously, I don't give a lot of energy to that stuff, but I do like to see if people say, like that hand you're talking about, like she didn't do this. It's interesting, like for me to see that and to see that maybe a lot of people out there are really into playing, really into watching streams, and like have a really strong, smart point of view about poker are saying that. one of the reasons I really like playing the streams is to go back and watch. Like, you can go home from a game and be like, I had no idea what that person had. I'll
Yeah.
never know.
Right.
And on a stream, you get to
Right.
know.
You get it.
It's
You get
kind
it
of like
flick.
an awesome thing. Like, I think anybody who would get an opportunity to play should do it because you see not only the way other people play against you and like what they had, but you also see things you did that maybe you would change or do differently.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
think I've learned a lot from it. So,
Yeah. So especially, yeah, like
but they
me.
don't have to be mean,
Yeah.
especially to the girls.
Yeah. No, I've
I
been
mean, I
I've
heard
been ripped on
that
by some of the girl players too. Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it's literally like literally three people and they're all female. So I'm just
Wow,
like,
really?
yeah.
That's terrible. They shouldn't say that, Wayne.
Um.
Be nice to
Whatever.
Wayne. He's
I
really
try.
good.
It's okay. Like it's okay. Like I get their feedback, and of course ask other commentators and other people at the table. So, like in all the cases, they said I was fine, but you can't help how people react. So
No, but also like if you lose a hand, you know what I noticed? I when the chat was nicest to me, whenever I've bluffed like a big hand,
yeah, everybody wants to see
they
that.
love that.
Of
They're like, "Go,
course.
Julie," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wait, I just won a big hand when I had it. You didn't give me props for
Oh,
that."
but the thing is,
But it's okay. I understand. I understand because I love watching the sick bluffs.
yeah,
Obviously, I
yeah,
love watching some of that stuff. I've
yeah,
seen like, the Garrett or the Gall like crazy bluffs. And it's like I admire. Of course,
of
we all
course.
admire that.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing when you're sitting there with your own pile of money that you're
Yep.
putting out there.
Absolutely.
So you have to pick your spots, and
Big
you
bluffs.
don't want to just do it for no reason. And anyway,
Yeah, big bluffs, big hero calls, massive pots. Those are just like the bread and butter for poker, where it's like when you watch it, you're like, damn, I gotta play some freaking cards.
I know. It's
Um,
really hard, I think, to make a big fold on a stream
oh yeah,
because I think
even
like
outside, that's like I think one of the hardest things to do is like folding a big hand, even if you know you're beat. It's just like, and then people can give you a hard time on stream, but like when I read the chat and I see like people on the stream, and I see the people outside who like just lie relentlessly about their holdings, and I know because I've been in those spots when I wasn't on stream, and I'm not always telling the truth, but now I pretty much have to tell the truth, and it's just like no, people don't even play close to perfect, not even the pros,
of
and like I've
course.
seen like yeah, and it's just like that's just what poker is, incomplete information. So all of a sudden when you get to see the whole cards, you're like, man, just no way, man.
No, I see the best players making mistakes. We
Right.
all do. I mean, nobody,
And they're very hard on
Roger Federer
themselves.
doesn't like.
Yeah, sports is much more. Yeah,
Nobody plays perfectly all the time. And I think like we all watch sports because we admire the way people play, right? We
yeah,
want to like watch some guy run a ball down a field
and maybe
like
we can't do
amazingly,
it either.
and we
Yeah,
can't do it.
yeah.
And same thing as like with the great players, I think in poker, like
Yeah,
watching,
Garrett, Dan,
some of
Zach.
these
Yeah,
artful guys like doing super strategic things and then like to measure me, maybe I think it's a little unfair to measure me against them because everybody knows I'm a rec player. Everybody
right.
knows like I'm not sitting here purporting myself to be, but I'm a winning player overall and I hold my own and I put it out there and like it is hard to make a big fold on stream
Oh,
or on
absolutely.
TV
Yeah,
because you feel like, oh, I'm going to get bluffed on TV. But I don't care. Like I made a big lay down to Garrett. I think the hand you said you were going to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah.
And actually, I walked out you were there. I walked out to go to, I only walk out to go to the ladies' room during that thing. And there was a guy out there, I think I stopped to talk to you, and he was like, can't believe you laid that hand down to Garrett. And I was like, I know the guy too. Like, he
Okay.
plays here all the time.
Well, if it's for friendly, then
No,
it's
no,
one
no.
thing.
He was giving me grief, and I was like, thinking, dude, I'm the one that has to put my $8,000 in
Right,
there with one pair. Like,
right.
seriously, on a guy like I can think of, like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, what combos he can have and, like, what he's playing. And I mean, I didn't, I didn't want to take the risk. I didn't have enough at stake in there. The pot wasn't big enough for me. We can look at it, but like you make a decision, and
Yeah, it's a real time
if you want to
decision.
stake me and put your $8,000 in, I'll make the hero call.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna go over some hands.
Okay.
So what's in store for you in the future? Bleh. What's in store for your future in poker?
In poker, I
Yeah.
thought in movies.
Well, that too. That's the
Let's
next
see. In
question.
poker, I would say that just keep trying to learn and get better. That's all I think any of us want to do, no matter what level we're at.
Right.
You always have room to grow,
Right.
and I'll pick up some of those mixed games. I think for me, like having played a few tournaments in the series this year, I felt super rusty on tournament play, so I'd like to work on that a little. I'll probably do some like focused work on tournaments before
JJ knows more than me, so go
before I
ahead.
return next June. I think like it just, for me, it's a time factor. Like I would love to play more tournaments,
Sure.
but if I have like 4 hours to go play, like I
Yeah, you
come
have
play
to play
cash,
cash game.
like,
Yeah.
and yeah. So, and I think, I just I enjoy. I think somebody was saying to me the other day, they were like, well, you know, what do you think it's about with, studying or whatever? And I was like, well, it's about like identifying the areas you need to work on. They're like, that's super vague. And I was like, okay. So for me, it's been about starting at one level, moving up in stakes, and as you move up, you get to be more challenged.
Yeah.
And in those stakes, then you have to really look at like your areas. Okay, I have to learn more aggression in this way. I have to learn more this or whatever my like deficits are. And so now I've gotten into like, bigger stakes and I'm working on that now. Like that's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's like hyper aggression in the high stakes, which relates to Andy's hand with Jackie. Is like people at the mid stakes and low stakes don't have that kind of
It's
aggression.
true, yeah.
So it's like when
It's the
I don't
tricky
want to talk
thing.
about
The
Andy.
higher
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
stakes get, the more I think, yeah, the higher the aggression gets.
Like it's way more aggressive and just like everything goes down to the chip. Whereas like in the mid stakes and low stakes, people just like lazily go all in a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not necessarily a case unless, two people have a big hand or somebody has a big bluff and then somebody has a hero call, then that's when the chips start flying in the higher stakes games.
One thing I had to detach myself from a lot and that was what I liked about tournaments early on was thinking about it as money because it's like that was a huge like flaw that I had.
Yeah.
So when I just made that comment about the Garrett thing with your $8,000, but
Right.
and maybe I can look at it as like, oh, one and a half bullets, as opposed to like, but I've had to really like take a step back from that and like really work on letting go of that particular thing. I would be like, I can't put $500 in here as opposed to like really looking at those chips. And that's been like, as I moved up in stakes, like, it's been a process I've had to get
Right.
behind because I've never played with more than I can afford to like lose if I lose, but
Sure.
it doesn't feel good to walk away. Like somebody said, "Oh, you lost so much money the other night." And I was like, "But it was the first stream I'd lost on in like
A long time.
months."
Right.
And so, yeah, okay, well, add up. Like, I mean, but I keep my poker bankroll separately from my
From
other
Oh,
bankroll.
that's
So
good because a lot of people don't do that.
you should do that. Well, I think, listen, it's, I have like anybody else, moments of like where you're like chasing your losses and things. Those are things I've worked
Yeah.
on over the years
Yeah,
because I don't want to be that person like,
I was having a conversation with, I mean, it's a constant conversation, but um yeah, because it's like you're so physically close to like say pros or like one room or one table away from like these greats, like people don't realize how much time they spent. And I could watch like some talented players that are younger, like I see some Europeans, like or say uh, Dimitri, Patty, and just like, some Instagrams like 3Bet Panda. Like I watch them play, I'm like, okay, they have promise, but I know what trials and tribulations they have not gone through yet. And man, 3Bet Panda got shot. Like that hasn't happened to me before, but there's other trials and tribulations that
yeah,
when you're moving up, you don't know until you get there, and they really make you rethink just like life and the game in general, and just like what you want to do with this game. And there's always a higher stakes, so you have to choose when to stop and what direction to go in this. Like playing professional poker doesn't mean you jam up in the highest stakes. Where the third phase I did that, I went broke, and it was like a lot of it had to do with my family issues, but just like it doesn't matter. There's no excuses. I perfectly could have just like stepped down in the mid stakes, and it most likely would have been fine. But that's something that you learn. There's no excuses. And Sean Deep said in the Joining the podcast, it's like a lot of good players, they go broke, and it's usually of three leaks: a woman problem, a pit game problem, or yeah, just a tilt problem. And once you fix those three things, everybody gets back into shape. But
right.
it usually happens.
I don't have a woman problem, but but I
And you
have
got
other
rid of your dude
problems.
problem.
I got my dude problems are always. But no, I agree, and I think that, it's listen, I think also people have this misperception. They go, "Oh, you're a movie producer, so you can just afford like." Doesn't mean I want to lose $1 at poker, by the way.
Right,
Like
yeah.
I only want to win, and you don't always obviously win. You're
Yeah.
like, and I have to remind myself. That's the thing I said like about letting go of like accepting the variance and going like, okay, I'm going to lose this percentage of the time probably, and if I'm losing this much percentage of the time, then I need to look at like the stakes I'm playing, what I'm doing wrong, and I did go through a little period like that, but then I made some adjustments and there's no way there's no good reason to continue with that. Like I don't care if you have a really good job or you don't or it's your only job, but yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of
I
poker.
think ego comes into play a lot for people, and I
Yeah.
think that's a huge advantage. I'm not going to say I don't know about all female players, but I think like it is an advantage. I have no ego in it. That's why I don't care. Like somebody sees me make a big fold to Garrett there where he's bluffing me. It's like, you know what? I'm comfortable with my decision and
Right.
I don't have like a big ego, but I think I've seen a lot where I'll be at games and I'll watch, especially when little rivalries are created,
Yeah.
how much money goes in the middle for
Oh
just
yeah.
to prove a point, and it's like yeah, you bluffed me on the last hand, so I'm going to do this. It's like
Yeah.
I that was another thing I worked on. Like every hand's a new hand. Like I made a bad decision on something because I had just lost two buy-ins,
hmm
and I made like a bad decision to fold something because I was like, I don't want to lose another buy-in, and that's terrible.
Yeah, you can't.
Every hand's a new hand, and so
Right.
that's like something I've really, like I said, worked on.
Yeah, it's just a continuous session, and it's like yeah, it's just a double-edged sword. Like when you're playing, you have to view them as chips, but when you're getting crushed, and you like, especially professional poker players, myself included, um, skirt the edges and bankroll like at certain junctures of your life, because it is what it is. So you can't like when you play poker, you have to treat them as chips, but at the end of the day, it's still money, and then you have to just like adjust. And like I said, the one time I went broke, like I could take physically and psychologically take losses, but then when I start disassociating myself that it's real money, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have any more. So
Where's the money coming from? Yeah.
yeah, and I used to like I said, I had a lot of outside pressure, but in the end, it's just like you're responsible for yourself. And like some people said, why don't I play, higher stakes? Or actually, I started as a 40-80 prop and I moved down. It's because I have a lot of other things, Live with the Bike being one of them. You know about some of my other projects too. And it's like I instead of playing 6 months in a year and writing 6 months in a year, now I simultaneously do a lot of things, and I just cannot handle the strain of like, because I'm not like, Patrick Kern, all these guys, they see me, I'm like tired as hell because what's the most important thing of being a prop or live with a bike? Show up on time. Like that's the most important thing. Like if I slip up, I could correct it or whatnot, or if I play a little bit subpar. But if I have to show up on time, there's no overnight sessions. There's no like, oh
Right.
yeah, so like you have to be responsible and finding out where that threshold is, where you can handle everything responsibly. That's, the balance that I have to choose during my life. And yeah, kind of is what it is.
Well, one thing I've noticed for myself is like because I do have a job and I have a lot of commitments, it's like sometimes it'll be like, I haven't played in a couple of weeks and I want to go play, and then it's hard to get me out of that casino once because I haven't
Yeah.
because you feel this thing of like I haven't played, I want to play, and I'm also such a night owl, so I'm like the person that could play easily till all hours. But I have a
I
friend,
won't comment on that. No, I'm
I
just
know,
kidding.
I have a friend who always says to me, the casino's not going to close. You
Right.
can
Yeah.
leave. They're going to be open tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, but it's like traffic and I can't get there and I don't want to get that. I don't want to do that. And I definitely used to have the thing of like, some people in relationships like don't go to bed mad. My thing was like, don't leave down. Like,
Yeah. It's
you're
it's
gonna, I busted. I've got to like get it back. I've got to get it back. And
yeah.
I've let go of that a lot. So
Right.
that's like, and I also say, now I say to myself, okay, I can play till 2. And if it's after 2, then I'm going to be there all night, so I can't do that. When the vacuum cleaner comes out,
Yeah.
folks, when the vacuum cleaner comes out, it's time to go home.
Yeah. Well, that's my shift. So I'm like, oh, vacuum cleaner's here. I get to leave in 2 hours.
No, but I do. I've always been like that. I've always been like a late night
Yeah.
player in
Me too.
person,
Yeah.
and I really love that. And I think it's kind of good that I never really got into online because that's what I would do all night then if I was home. That would
Yeah.
be easier. I wouldn't be in the car.
It was a different era too, because I think a lot of people are human and they have this problem too. It's just like when you're bored, oh, just fire it up. And now like online's much harder and harder to access and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So People have asked me, am I ever going to go play online? And I'm not for any reasonable stakes. It's just like, and just like the more I learn about artificial intelligence and just the back, and I'm like,
Yeah,
not in this era. Like
true.
back in like 2005, even up until like Black Friday, yeah, there were like bad stories, but those were more the exception, not the norm. Like I always got paid. Even Full Tilt didn't send out a certain checks in time, but they actually gave me more money. They
Oh,
were like, yeah, they were like, oh, it's late, so we'll give you a little bit more money. So I'm like, all right,
that's
whatever.
nice. You made money in that whole deal?
Yeah.
Wayne's the only person that made money in Black
No,
Friday.
no, no, no.
No, a lot of people lost a lot of money, and it's like yeah. I think I played in some of those online tournaments, and I'm like, how could that person possibly get that hand there? That's just not. How could they be in that hand? And you're
Yeah.
like, it's a little shady.
Yeah. I feel like I might have been super usered on one site. I don't want to mention it because I actually won a lot there, but yeah, I just like, and it was just stupid because like I just should have known better, and luckily I stopped after I lost 30K.
Oh God,
Personally, yeah, no,
don't do that at home.
no, 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 no. I'm actually I publicly say like outside I'm never gonna play big. I'll play big on stream for exhibition, but especially with certain players like if there are names other places, but just off stream my career's over.
I also really like live poker. Like to me, the social like environment of like the
Live.
actual everything that's involved in sort of perceiving what other people are doing and
Yeah.
the studying of like everybody at the table and like that is taken. I mean, it's still you can still do that online, but it's
Yeah,
totally a
it's
different.
it's totally different. Actually, so shout out to Phil Galfon and Run It Once. Back when I was playing online, there are HUDs, heads up displays, which have like a lot of numbers. You can
Yeah,
search for any number, but like a few generic numbers like pre-flop raise, aggression factor, win at showdown. Those were very important generic numbers, and if you weren't using them, you're at a heavy disadvantage. I've heard of some people who do well, who didn't use them, but oh man, I don't suggest that at all because there's so much stuff where you're like sometimes, especially if the hands haven't compiled for a while, then it takes a while to load up. So you'll be playing like somebody, and as soon as the numbers come up, you're like, oh, okay, well I screwed that up. The numbers don't lie.
right.
So yeah, it's basically.
That's funny.
But Phil Galfon has a thing where it's a more friendly HUD, so it's like you see emoji. So if like I jump in the table and you've been playing wild, then this other guy may see that you're playing wild. But if I jump in and you've been playing tight for like 2 orbits, then I see somebody that's playing tight. So it just dynamically alters
Right.
basically towards the situation. So I think that's awesome. Phil Galfon, obviously a good guy, and wants to help make poker better.
Good.
So
And he
um,
also has a wife who's a good player. I played with her. She
yeah,
was a really good player.
um, yeah, and then last question, then we're
I
gonna go
like
into
pointing out the wives of the
yeah.
pros that aren't just like sitting home raising the babies. She had a baby and she's still out there playing. So.
Yeah, and then somebody attacked her and said, "How much of Phil's money are you losing?" And then she's just like, "Hey, you want to see more results? Like, they're verifiable." So it's like, it's dumb talking trash to certain people who are like,
That's funny.
"Dude, look at what I'm doing," right? And you can't even, say
She was
stuff.
an actor, right? Actor turned poker player, just like Jennifer Tilly. It's
Oh,
like
I don't
people in
know.
our business are just,
Yeah, it's
transitioning
just
us
well, yeah.
going
There's
pro. Randall Emmett going pro.
shout out to Randall Limit.
Hey, Randall.
So the
People,
last,
that's the first thing people ask me at the poker table. They're like, "You're a producer, just like Randall," and it's like we did a movie together years ago. But it's really funny that that's like, yeah, I mean, we're both producers,
and
so
now he's a poker star.
yeah, he is. I know.
Everyone
He
knows
gets
him.
more airtime than anybody.
Yeah,
You know what? He puts on a good show, I guess. Like for people,
he does.
like he
Yeah,
likes to like
yeah.
do his, you know.
It's genuine
You know what?
excitement.
He loves poker. I know. Like
Yeah,
whatever you want to say, like that guy loves poker, and we love that about him. Because I love it too. Why else are we doing it?
right. To grind out better than McDonald's randoms. So, would you ever be interested in doing a poker movie?
Yes, I would if it was the right story to tell. Sure. I mean, it's really hard because I think there was a lot to Rounders that really like said it, not said it all, but kind of showed.
And that was yeah, it was the pre-internet era too. So it was a really good representation of the psychology, even
Yeah.
though some of the hands might be off. I'm actually less critical than most people about the hands. I think actually the hands are, I don't know, 80%ish realistic. It's really not that big of a deal. And the other stuff where it's not that realistic, it's like it's a movie.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
you
movie.
can't just like you need to. The movie and the story are more important than the poker
That's
hands.
right. Well, first of all, Matt Damon, I love him in anything. I
Yeah.
worked with him. He's like probably one of my favorite people I've ever
It's
worked
mine,
with.
Leo and Matt.
Yeah, Leo's awesome, and I've worked with him a bunch. But Matt Damon is like definitely, he likes to bring integrity to anything. He worked a lot on his poker game. So funny though, I ran into Edward Norton one night, and we were talking about it, and he's like asking me all these questions about poker, and I was like, "Didn't you study all this?" And you know? But
He studied the cheating part.
he was like, "Yeah, I got to know Johnny Chan," and like that. I don't know. He forgot a lot of it, but Matt Damon really like took it to heart. But I think like it did nicely celebrate that. I think that was when the World Series was kind of emerging
Yeah.
as like a popular thing. So I think that was
Well,
it was like the moneymaker era, right? Wasn't it?
Rounders came out in 1998, so it helped jumpstart the moneymaker
Right.
era, and then the moneymaker winning just helped it like take off.
Yeah.
So
And those guys, obviously, Koppelman and Levine, who wrote it, like obviously they really
billions.
know their
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they did that great episode on Billions of the
With
poker
the yeah, I
game. Yeah.
remember.
Sometimes, maybe like it's hard. It's like still kind of niche, even though I wonder how big the numbers are. Like when you look at like how many days they cover now on ESPN, like the World Series, I think, well, maybe it's getting a way more expanded audience. It's like anything. It's like I used to try and make different sports movies, and they used to say, well, sports movies have no international markets, like baseball movie, like doesn't play outside of the United States.
Then
And
there's the blind side.
I know, but and then there's like the occasional, but that was more of like the family story, I think,
Right.
than like the actual sports.
Yeah.
It's like anything what we were talking about before. It's like when something works, everybody wants like let's get
Peace.
more
Yeah.
poker movies.
Right. Or
But a
Asian
lot of
movies.
people have talked about doing like a sequel to Rounders. A lot of people talked about like where would that character be now and everything. And
Yeah.
but I don't know, like where would he be? I don't know.
Um,
There's such an interesting documentary that I watched on I think it was like on Amazon, which was the study of two different poker players. I don't know if have you seen this one?
I think I know which one you're talking about. Is like they did different choices in life, and then one actually became pro, and like one
One
busted. And
guy is like an internet pro,
yeah,
winning lots of money, like has no gambling problems, disciplined, skilled, studies the game, like very like just a really,
diligent. Yeah,
yeah, diligent player. The other guy had like a gambling problem and like
I
ended
think
up
so.
like
Yeah,
stealing like his roommate's credit card to like
yeah. I don't
buy
remember the
whatever, and
details. Yeah,
he ends up like homeless walking across the country with his dog. And it's such an interesting study of that's what I'm more interested in, I think, is in a movie would be like not necessarily poker as the world of poker, because I
right.
think we get plenty with like watching. We all love to watch like Phil Hellmuth, Antonio, like all these like
Yeah,
these poker celebrities, Phil Galfond, whoever,
yeah,
and love to watch their big game. But like I think what would be more interesting is like the psychological study of like people almost like the right path, wrong path thing of
yeah.
like, yeah,
No,
I think that would be an interesting thing to delve into. I loved that documentary. I thought like it really explored how those little things, those, make the difference.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's like I kind of do know what to say, but like I've seen the spectrum too. Like I'm friends with Mark Newhouse, and he had a rough, and then he made two final tables in World Series, and then that was I don't want to delve in too much, but yeah, he was in trouble, and that actually kind of got him out. And like other people, like Jesse Martin or like Garrett Danzak, are just super responsible, and they've taken like 10 times, if not 100 times more punches in the face than I have, and I'm just settled here. And Garrett was really nice like half a year ago. He was playing here, and then we just chatted a bit because I used to play high stakes too. And he was like, "Oh, are you happier?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, just like if I just have to show up on time, do live at the bike and do this other stuff and just get paid." I'm like, "That's a lot better than getting punched in the face and being out of action for a couple days and like waiting for a game to come, or just like when the game comes, you become a slave to it and rush to it."
Yeah. Well,
So
also knowing your parameters that you can play in and having balance. Like,
yeah,
again, I don't know, I played with Garrett a few times, obviously, and I know him a bit, but like, he really has good balance. Like,
yeah,
he, is like, I'm always amazed. Like, he's like, grilled salmon with lemon. Like he's very like, but I
meticulous.
mean, I do think that for me, like the one thing I noticed in the main event was I was coming off of a lot of like weeks of working super hard, like grinding it out at work, not poker, like
Yeah.
real work. My real job.
Just kidding.
No,
I'm
you
kidding.
guys.
I'm kidding.
I'm not a pro.
I'm kidding.
My real job, and I was like tired, and I wasn't in the frame of mind. I don't think. Like I realized, you have to be in like obviously great physical condition. The
Yeah.
stamina is amazing,
Yeah.
and I told my friend, I was like telling him like I'm so tired from playing. He's like, "Oh, that's so funny. You sit at a table all day." Like, and I was like, "You don't understand."
It's
And then I
different.
called
Yeah.
him after like there was the guy who had been like an NFL pro who went he was on like some featured table and I saw an interview with him when he busted and he said it's the most like physically demanding thing to sit in this like he'd gone like day 6 or whatever in the main event. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about, but I mean, I know how
He was a
draining
big
it
football player.
is.
Like he
Yeah.
had wore a Super Bowl ring or whatever. So I was like, that guy said it. See, and then he's like, oh, respect. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think that like you have to be, yeah. The best thing is like to have a full balanced life. And the people I see, I think that I've seen people go off the rail. I've actually
Yeah.
seen more people like gambling wise go off the rails from like sports betting. Like that's
Sure.
been
Yeah.
where I've seen a lot of people go really broke. But yeah, sometimes friends will say like, "Oh, you gamble a lot." I'm like, "Are you talking about poker?" Like, yeah, there's gamble involved, but I don't look at it as gambling. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I go to Vegas once in a while, and I love that Ultimate Texas Hold'em table I play. I'm way up in that game though, so
Just quit
I'm
then.
gonna
Quit.
defend. But no, I mean, I think like I remember when I was growing up, somebody said Gabe Kaplan was a professional gambler. Oh, no, no, I know what it was. My brother-in-law was buying a house and it was next door to this huge house in Beverly Hills and they said, Gabe Kaplan bought it. And I was like, oh, yeah, he was on TV. Like, from that money? And they're like, no, he's a professional gambler. I was like, he's a professional gambler? He makes money? Like, it was like unfathomable to me, but nobody explained to me that he was like a poker player. So,
Obviously, the Hollywood industry is very unstable, and I don't want to name any names that I know of that switched over or also do, poker and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like with instability, you need to find stability, and with poker, at least there's a demand for it. So I don't want to name any names in
no,
case
don't.
it's, yeah.
Molly Bloom already did that
Yeah.
one. She named names.
So yeah, it's just like um, you meet a lot of crossover. Like Nick has a vase. Actually, obviously, shout out to the Notebook. And like I got nailed
Good movie.
hand nailed down and made me watch it. I'm like, oh damn, all right, it's a good movie. And then I remember him in Face Off. He was actually an actor.
Yeah, he was an
Yeah,
actor, yeah.
yeah. So he wants to take his face off.
His
But
daughter Gina, shout out to her, is a really good tournament player. She's grinding it out. I played with her in the ladies event. She played in the main. She cashed in a bunch of events this summer. So
yeah, so there's a lot of
the generations are continuing.
yeah. So all right, let's get to your hands. Boom.
Boom. This must have been one of the times somebody ragged on my hair, I guess, because look at
Uh,
that. I'm just
ooh,
kidding.
all
Just kidding.
all nighter. And I'm just kidding. Hey, don't you guys don't act like.
You know what? It gets hot in there sometimes. Like you get
Oh
like,
yeah, the lights are really bright and it's really hot. Which, oh, this one. Okay.
oh yeah, this is from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So,
Good.
uh,
Thank God
f-
there's something more recent. 'Cause-
yeah, I basically try to get the most recent
thank
ones.
you.
So
Yeah, because sometimes.
folded galleys got ace ten of diamonds, raising the button, and Julie Yorn, my special guest tonight. Mystery hand, but it'll be revealed at the end.
Oh yeah, what? It's not on there.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay.
And three bets.
Oh, you know what's really funny about this? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess because the hand didn't come up, a friend of mine was watching. I was like, I was positive you were bluffing.
Mm,
Oh no, no, I was positive you had it. I was
hmm
anyway. Well,
That's
I won't
good.
give it away.
Yeah.
Was positive I had it the whole time, and then insisted I had it, and then it turned out.
Three bets, no way Gall's folding in this spot. He calls. There, little glance.
What was that glance?
I don't know.
I was like, what the hell are you calling with?
It's like third grade.
I was trying to pick it up right now. Now this
So,
flop's a disaster for me without telling you what I have.
see, check,
And my dinner's coming on top of it. There comes my salad. No, just kidding.
check, and check, and just gets worse.
Bigger disaster. My a king needs to come. That's all I'll say.
All right, so it's checked around, and now,
Yeah, a flush got there, huh? Huh.
yeah, so you're betting, looks like about 1,000. No, 1,200, yeah. And Gall with top pair has to think.
So, I mean, I look, I obviously, I mean, we know going to say what I
Yeah,
had, right?
yeah.
I mean, I obviously didn't know he had an ace. I obviously didn't know he had the hand he had. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done this. But I was, once the ace came, I was trying to, I think, rep ace king or something. But I basically was just trying to get him to fold, like, you know,
A jack.
a queen or a
Yeah.
jack, thinking I'm going to get him off of that. And also, obviously, at this point, he had been checking. I was like, you know, this is the only way I'm going to win the hand. And if he comes over the top of me, obviously I'm folding, but I just felt like I knew I didn't have, and I was trying not to talk.
He's not talking yet.
He's not talking yet, but he did. In the hand, he kept saying like, "You have a really good hand, or what?" Like,
He might have put you on like checking a flop set and just like
he's like,
waiting.
"What do you have?" And then I just
Ooh,
nodded.
pocket tens.
I think he said like, "You have a really good hand, don't you?" And I was like, "Yes," which
And
I did
there,
before the flop.
right. Ghibli Yorn, Bluff Master.
And I said to him,
Haha.
no, I didn't say that.
I'm kidding.
I said, I've really tried not to talk during a hand. Sorry, was what I said. But then he's like, I don't know if he ever went back and looked at this. I think I asked him at one point,
Let me ad lib. I'm
do
just
you
kidding.
go back and look at your hands? And he's like, only if it keeps me up. So maybe he didn't go back and look. I don't think that one kept him up. He was stuck a lot in that game with Garrett, not me.
So there's Mayhem, and this is a hand that the chat kind of attacked you for, and
Oh,
I'm like, no, you guys are wrong. She played the hand very well, and we're gonna walk through it. So VIP raises King Queen Bow Bow three bets Ace Queen of Clubs, and you have a choice to flat here or four bet. It's totally fine each way, and it depends on your image plus what you think of the initial raiser and the three better. You decide to flat, which again is reasonable.
well, I mean, I think I would have gotten it all in here, but I feel like I had two people behind me still. This mayhem guy was bluffing or like barreling the whole night. I just don't remember what happened with him except that I remember he was super aggressive against me. And Bao Bao hadn't really played many hands, so I kind of like respected that too. But I flatted, so now
So he checks. I mean, you can opt to bet here.
it looks like I almost went for a bet.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we don't see your view, but maybe you saw Mayhem was about to bet. Like we don't see the
I
camera.
mean, for sure, like he's gonna bluff me no matter what. So,
So you of course bet this turn, especially if it's checked around. You have an overpair, and then Mayhem calls with his open and straight draw. Power of course folds,
so now I put him on a straight draw and or a flush draw or a flush draw. Um,
and the
and
river's a
I'm
two.
now I know he missed, and I know he's gonna bluff.
So what the chat was saying is why you didn't check raise here with twos full of jacks, and there's a relatively polarized situation because he didn't bet the flop, so he probably doesn't have a one pair hand. So what are the hands that may check the flop, or if you flop a monster like a set of sevens or a set of fours, or a weak hand like if you had I don't know ace deuce suited, and then on the turn when you bet and he calls, there's two draw or not two draws, there's several draws like a wheel draw or 5-6, and with the twos they missed. So or sorry with the two river. So if he has quads your check raise doesn't really do anything. And if he has a set of sevens or set of fours, you're still losing to those two. So you're trying to induce a bluff, and which you got the bluff from him.
Hmm.
But if he actually had a monster, you're screwed. So there's no real point to check raising since if he had if he had a piece, he would more likely bet the flop.
Hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that I was commenting that one and I told the chat that, and it's just like yeah, unless you have the read that he has a hand to pay off, but he didn't have anything to pay off. So this is gonna be against DJ Melody. You raise ace queen of clubs under the gun.
I always get into hands with him though, Melody.
He defends in the big blind. And there's actually not going to be much strategic talk. We're going to talk about your emotional journey in this one.
Oh, I know which hand this is. This is yeah, I know why you're saying that. I know which hand this is. This is what you call just great
Fun.
friggin' luck, except that he doesn't have
What
more.
you go to the casino for?
Yeah, except that like if he has more,
You learn that from
I
Phil
wish.
Hellmuth, that posture.
Yeah, exactly. I was just wishing he had like jacks or something here, queens. He probably didn't have queens, I have ace queen, but I was just wishing he had like
Oh
some
my
sort of thing.
goodness. All
Yeah,
right,
that's just
what are you feeling?
so you feel like a combination of feelings, obviously.
And now
Like
he bets into you. Now what are you feeling?
you're feeling like I don't want to do anything to show my strength. I have to just smooth call. But I think that yeah, I think that I don't know. Don't you sometimes spaz out when you have like the nuts? It's like, how do I
Yeah,
max extraction here? I was just hoping he had like I was hoping he had a pair in his hand, but
in this case, it's just
he even has like a hand that, he's going to keep playing obviously no matter
yeah,
what.
you just don't want to pull the trigger because if he hits a king or queen, he has to pay.
But if I raise him here, he's going to go
Oh
away,
yeah,
so
he's done. So of course you string him along because your hand absolutely cannot be beat.
I'm just hoping I'm hoping at this point that he just makes a really big bet on the river for, either for value or just to bluff, but
Yeah.
he does not put me on an ace here. I'm like praying he has like a jack or something.
Or he continues the bluff. All right,
Which he
DJ
does.
Melody, we're gonna throw you under the bus here.
He's always going to continue the bluff. No,
Yeah.
he's tried to bluff me a lot.
He likes mixing up his game for sure. And he's tanking. He's tanking. Pot's 345. What are you feeling now? Please bet.
It's
Please
so
bet.
funny. No, I'd had a hand with him off stream like really recently before this where I like hero called him on something and he was like so pissed about it. And then I tried to explain to him this is why I did it. He's like, and you give me the speech. So
Yeah, he's
what I'm
such a
thinking here
easygoing guy.
is there any bet he's going to call? He's just going to go away once I raise, but I have to like try
You have
and
to
get
try.
something.
Yeah.
Like if I was thinking, I think if I did a min raise, I get paid maybe something, but
Yeah, if he had a pair.
he's maybe, that's what I was
It's
thinking.
hard.
I don't
If
know.
he hits jack, it's like maybe you had king jack and he had a jack and he's chopping. I don't know. But yeah.
I think what I'd said
Nice
there when I
life.
picked that up was, is there a high hand tonight?
Yeah.
I was hoping there was a high hand.
And you're like, why
And
aren't you
there
playing
wasn't.
UTH?
Yeah, exactly. That would have been good. Flopping quads.
No, this was.
What's this?
Oh, I think this is the hand with Garrett. Yeah, this is the hand with Garrett.
Okay.
So Danny raises and hijack a6 off. Nick calls on the button king 10 suited. I think you just call and Garrett just calls.
Wait, where's, oh, I should have,
So your first
I
act,
should
you
have
checked
three
around.
bet this though behind Nick, to be honest, but
Yeah,
I
mean,
still have Garrett behind me. No. Yeah, there was a straddle. I have Garrett behind me in the straddle.
so it's checked
And now
around.
he stands up and says, just so I'm pointing out, he does stand up and say, how much are you playing? And does the whole like staring at my stack.
So he raises to 2,000. You bet 600. He raises to 2,000.
Obviously, I'm calling here.
Yeah.
I knew the 9 helped him. I didn't know how, but I actually, I definitely worried about Jack 9 here.
So
Or nines. He could have had nines.
So river is a blank, doesn't really complete any major draws. And then you check, and the pot is 5,350. And he just puts you in, right?
And as you can see, I'm thrilled. But I think that I think this is the hand where the guy was like, "You folded your jack." Now I have
I
have 8,000 behind me,
yeah.
and I'm like thinking this through. And I mean,
It's 160% bet, pot bet. So it's like, you have a bluff catcher.
I mean, it did. To be honest, it felt bluffy. Like
Yeah.
I'm not. I definitely knew I was probably laying down, but I can't.
Just
I don't know what to say. It was one of those like equating money, like 8,000 with one pair here. He could easily have Jack 9. He could have,
You could have flopped
he
the
could
set.
have a
There's
set,
so many
yeah.
things he could have, but it's just a
He
matter.
could have a set. He could have two pair. I don't know. Like I just felt like he somehow. I got a live read that the 9 when the turn came that he was like really happy with it, and obviously
Which
he raised
right,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, he was, but I didn't put him on the queen 10 anyway. Look, hey.
Well, there's no shame
You
to
know
get
what?
bluffed out by Garrett.
I think that if anybody out there says that they have never been bluffed by an excellent player, then
Yeah,
they're
that's
full of
completely
it.
BS. This is more just like, for fun. Ken's on the gun. He just limps with jacks. Nick raised with fours, and you have ace king suited.
I hope I'm going to raise him here. What's the...
I think you just call, but it's okay. Don't worry. Watch what happens.
I'm very surprised I didn't raise him. I
I
love the way
mean, you
looking back at my own hands, like, why didn't I
no,
do
it's
that?
okay. Like
What's wrong with her?
you mix up things, especially with.
I would say the majority of the time in that spot I'm gonna raise him,
Yeah,
but
the standard play. But the thing is, like, you do have to mix things up, and you flop the nut flush easy.
ooh,
So
I'm a lucky ducky there. Okay, so I'm super lucky because he flops a set.
yeah,
So now I'm
he
gonna
bets
get
into you,
paid.
and of course you call.
I think
Like your acting
also
job. Is this like who you're watching here? Chris Pine? You're like, oh, channeling.
Marlon Brando did this. No, yeah. I mean, I think
And Ken, of course, with this kind of action, doesn't like his jack. Jacks. Turns a jack. Oh, I'm psychic.
oh, Ken. Oh, he
And now
turned the
look at
jack.
Ken's expression. He's like, oh, but he saved a ton.
And now I'm just gonna keep letting Nick do the thing for. Oh no, probably a raise here.
I think you just call and
Oh,
then you bet there. Either way, it's just like, oh, I think you do raise.
I did raise,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm hoping he has the hand I think he has, or
right.
um,
And from his
he
point
might
of
have
view,
like a 9, 10 of clubs or something too. Like he might have another two clubs in his hand.
and from Nick's point of view, it's tough because you could have like Queen Jack with the Jack of clubs or a set of threes. Um,
I'd
Ace,
probably do that anyway, just having like if I have ace, queen, ace of clubs.
yeah, or Ace Jack, Ace clubs. A lot of situations. And you did flat pre. So again, this is a tough decision for all players. It's like when you have a set and a three flush board, and the straight's not really relevant in this. The potential straights aren't that relevant in this hand. So you just tap him
And knowing Nick, I think he's going to call me if he has
a
any
strong
kind of
hand.
flush or any set. He's
Yeah,
going to call me, I think.
easy game.
It's just so
No, but
It's funny because that same game I did flop the nut flush against Garrett, and I just let him bet the
barrel you.
whole way. I never raised or anything, and like he put, we got all our money in there.
Even though you obviously got lucky in this hand, one thing to note is like a lot of low stakes and even mid stakes players, when they flop the nuts, they like check. But it's like they either have something or they don't. So this is an exercise, an example of you got to bet and raise and get paid. Or like you can't, the other one where you had quad aces, it's like it's hard for people to have anything. But with something like this, like queen 4-3, then a turn jack, like people can have a lot of things.
Right.
And if you don't like jam it, then you lose out on a lot of opportunity. So the difference between the nuts with people when people can have something versus the nuts when people can't have
Right.
something.
Well, I knew he loved what he had. I just didn't know exactly what it was.
Man, you're really taking lessons from Phil with the posture.
I really don't like. I mean, I used to just give
I'm
off a
just-
lot of info. No,
Don't you know everything you do at the table conveys information?
I know. I just really don't like to look at anybody if I can avoid it,
Yeah.
whether I have it or whether I don't.
Oh yeah,
I also usually just wear my glasses because I can't see, but I also have these tinted ones that are prescription so that I can.
So you're getting a couple hands with Yo Viral here. I
Oh my
think.
God, this was another one where like I sat down and every time, I thought he was bluffing me the whole time and he had it every time it turned out. I started to get really,
Yeah.
and then I called in a spot and lost all my money. I don't think this is it. No, this isn't the one I called. I flopped trip queens and he ended up rivering me, but he and I were just going like we just got involved in so many hands this night. It was annoying.
So Yovaro picks up a gut shot and a set draw.
I made it small. There's like a lot of players in this hand with me, but I want to. So funny, I can't. Okay, I was looking for the. There was a flush draw out there.
So Yovaro check raises, semi bluff,
Yeah.
6 outs. Do you have any feelings here?
I felt like it was just what he was doing the whole time, so I definitely thought he was bluffing here.
Then he gets there.
But
Easy game.
I know. You know what? It's funny. It's like I obviously didn't know he had a set, but obviously he could easily have a six here, and
He could have had a
he could
straight on
have
the
had
turn.
six nine. He could have had like I mean there was
He could have already had a straight like 10-9 or
yeah
5-6, but this kind of puts the nail in the coffin. Like with these four-liner boards, even if they don't have the straight, they could easily have two
yeah.
pair.
In a way, it's just lucky because if he had like uh, deuces or something, I don't fold thinking he hit the set. I definitely was like not into the straight being out there and me not hitting my straight.
Still, like we talked about, it's still tough laying down the hands, even if it's like we know.
Hmm.
But the four-liner, you lose the two pair as well, and
It's funny. I laid them down. I bet when I was ahead with him every time, and I laid it down every time, and then I just got frustrated finally and
I think
called. But he got really lucky afterwards. Like we
yeah,
got it all in.
somebody on Twitter said it was like you were being a super user. Shout out to JJ De La Garza in the chat
JJ.
and Lunar Tricycles. What's up?
What are they saying in the chat?
I actually
Bad things about the
closed my
hand?
computer, so I
Oh.
locked out myself, which is kind of bad. But
You
you
don't
have
have the
two
hand with
hands,
Philip where he like, oh no, two hands in this one. This
two
guy
hands in a
Philip
row.
tried
Versace
to
Mark.
big time bluff, and I had aces. Here's me yawning. I play with Versace Mark a lot. Wait, I'm not in this hand,
Oh, maybe.
but I'll
Whoops.
watch it.
Sure, let's do it.
I've been playing with Versace Mark for years. I always think I know when he's bluffing, but I don't necessarily. He gets this little smirk when he's bluffing and when he has it. So it's this Yo Viral was great, but he did these crazy things. He was doing like this min
Min
betting
bet,
the whole
yeah.
time, which was like everybody was like, "What?"
Yeah, Oscar did that first on the
Uh,
stream, and then
I thought it was just a French thing. I mean, you just treat it like a check, basically, but it's like,
I think you have a hand after this, or I would
okay.
have clipped it. Ernesto Leitao says, "No, Julie, you're cool,"
Oh, good.
and he corrected Y-O-U-R to Y-O-apostrophe-R-E. Which so usually when people attack people and say "your," they always spell it wrong. So Fernando Ortiz says, "Julie's cool, great guest. Hope you guys enjoyed the
Yay.
Hollywood talk. Like you can't Google the stuff that we were talking about."
It's
You
true.
can, but it's really hard. I mean, maybe you can, but it's hard to find. Like the stuff that Martin Schaefer told me, just like you don't get that from anywhere. You don't get that
It's
advice.
true.
So you have to like earn your stripes up to a certain point, and then somebody has to break the bad news to you.
It's funny though. It's like the most common question is definitely like, what does a producer do? And it's just such a hard answer because, like I said, all producers do different things.
Yeah.
But
And you also are involved with USC, is that correct?
well, I do a mentor. I mentor people and the students from the Stark program. So
Mm.
I was really lucky because not last year, but the year
What am I doing? I
before.
must have screwed up with cutting these things.
I know. I'm like I'm watching. I'm fine watching them.
Um,
Elvira was a very good player.
so the USC Stark producer program
Yeah, and
is
so my mentee, like 2 sessions ago, was a young woman who was a writer, and now she's literally the hottest writer in Hollywood. She wrote like
sick.
Girls Trip. Tracy Oliver, shout out. She probably doesn't watch this. She doesn't play any poker, I don't think. She's just really talented girl, though. Wow, look at this. They both.
All right, this is
This
the
is a sick hand right
this
here.
is the Israeli Ron PokerCraft. He gets cooler with the Queen 4. He should have had Queen Deuce
And
and
why
take
does
it
he
all.
play Queen 4? Can we discuss why Israeli Ron loves his Queen like
Queen
rag?
Deuce is just his
His
lucky
Queen
hand.
rags and reverse implied odds all day long. Okay. This hand looks like, okay.
Romanian Mike says hello from Vegas.
Hello. We love Vegas.
Vegas and the freaking Mirage.
Some people talk about Disneyland. For me, like the Encore, that's my Disneyland.
No, it's
Encore Poker Room. Love those guys.
that used to be a nickname
Great game
for
there.
the LA casinos.
What?
Like they say, oh, Disneyland was the nickname for Commerce.
Oh, that's so funny.
um,
I don't play Commerce that much. I like the bike. If I'm going to play in LA,
I'm paid to say so, but
I know.
but I do
And
vouch for
sometimes
it,
if it's traffic issue and I have to play on the west side, we'll play once in a while, over by the airport, but otherwise.
yeah. So the difference between the USC, at least screenwriting program with UCLA, like for those of you who are interested in this stuff, USC lets you take your time. Like you write one script and just pile on all your effort and just keep honing that script. UCLA is the opposite. They force you to write a script every 3 months,
Oh,
a
really?
first draft.
That's pretty good, though.
Yeah, no, it was
That's
really,
good.
it sucked, like, because I did the professional program before I was applying, and it was just like, I'm more suited for the take your time thing, but the USC application process is,
Why? Take your time.
I mean,
You'll just like procrastinate.
yeah, no, that it was
The
a good,
great writers say you have to write every day. You have to get up, schedule a time. Say like you say 10 to 2 or 10 to 4 or whatever you're
yeah,
writing. You got to do that, Wayne.
I am. You want to see how many notes I have? It's literally pages and pages. Ivan Laura says Julie's nice,
Thank you.
but just an average poker player.
Okay. It's okay. I hold my own. I'm good with my play. What's his name? How's he?
Even Laura, hey, even
Have
or
you
Ivan
won
Laura,
any
sorry.
big
Lunar Tricycle says Julie's cool. And
You can
Jesus,
read the bad ones if you want.
there are no bad ones.
Oh.
Jesus Guerrero says Julie is pretty sexy actually. She's
Oh.
like, I was about to say sexual.
Sexually. Okay.
The
I'll take it.
literally the worst one was Ivan Laurie
Saying
says
of an
Julie's
average poker
nice.
player?
Yeah, that was the worst one.
Yeah. I have to say that, like, I too think, why is this person doing this when I'm watching something? But, like,
Mm.
again, if I could see every hand. I definitely like looking
You
back at some
learn
of
so much from
but
how to
like
play. Yeah.
looking back at it now, I'm like, wait, why didn't I raise that? I should have raised that. Like I criticize my own play too, so I get you, Ivan.
Yeah, I mean,
If it
so
was Ivan that said that.
you missed the nut flush draw here.
Yeah.
So I guess that wasn't
Doesn't
exciting.
that
I don't know why I
suck?
clipped. I don't know. I must have screwed up with the clipping.
Now, this guy, Ken's the best guy to play with ever.
He's
Love
so
him.
much fun. Had lunch with him a few days ago, and also he took me out for Brazilian barbecue. Shout out to Ken Hartono. He was on
He's
the
the
last week's
best.
PokerCraft. Yeah.
He's the best. I've had such a good time playing with him. I'm sad because he said he's leaving LA, but
He'll be back. Yeah. So will
he's
Jew.
he's a good combination of like, he's good action, but he's a really good player, and
Yeah.
he also I always say it. Say it all the time at the table, like he's always in a good mood. I have to say, I get it, like a lot of people tilt.
Yep.
Poker can be a hard game, but
Yep.
like maybe they shouldn't play streams if they're gonna like tilt and
Sometimes you can't help it. I've tilted on stream once, and my tilt is like nothing. My tilt's like, oh, it's slightly subpar.
I get more tilted from I'd get more tilted from the chat probably than the game. No room for tilt. Can't hate the player, hate the game.
Sandy Joy says, lovely lady.
Thank you.
Wrecked Bing says she's great. I mean, obviously,
Okay, nice. Thank you.
usually people who come on, the Monday show are. Oh, C Minx asked Julie, "Are you single?"
Oh.
Mm.
I'm recently single, yes. Poker's my mistress. No. Poker's what's the equivalent of my mister? Poker's my mister.
Boy toy. So you raise
My
here for
last
value.
my last boyfriend was always like, "You'd rather play poker than see me, right?" And I was like,
Ooh. Austin, you had a meme where it's like our girlfriend. It was I think Finding Neverland with Johnny Depp, and then the conversation was the girlfriend said I had to choose between her or poker, and he said I'm gonna miss her.
"That's amazing.
Shout
I
out
love
Austin,
that.
you.
I love that. That's great."
NT Deep LA in the chat, and Yoviro goes over the top. This is probably why I had this in there. Let's see what you do. It's tough.
Yeah.
He bet, and he did this before, where he
What
like
did I
min
do
bets.
here? I don't remember. I think. Please tell me I called this.
Do, 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 do. And you do call,
God. Okay.
but
He's gonna get me on
he's a
that.
cheater, and he hits a five.
No, this
This is
is what I'm
Poker
saying.
Stars.
Every hand with him. I don't remember this game. It was a while ago, but
Yeah.
like every hand with him, he hit it. And I remember when you're sitting there and you're like, he's betting, and now he's like, gonna come at me again on the turn. But it's like, how could I know that he's playing 3-4 off?
Cheater,
Jeez.
cheater, but it's a good fold.
What happened pre-flop?
I don't know, but the flop,
I wonder. I wouldn't have raised unless like it folded to me on the button.
I think it was limp to you, but in regardless, it's
I'm not
this
gonna raise king
rough
ten off.
situation. And he gets there, and some guy on Twitter was like, "You super usered him," I guess. Because these were the hands, is why I picked these ones out.
No, I mean I do think that with the exception of one hand, almost every hand I bet when I was ahead and I folded when I was. I mean, which I was happy to see later because
Sure.
you just feel like sometimes you just feel like really targeted by somebody. Like maybe this guy just thinks like, who's this fish? I'm gonna just like they want to look good on a stream. He's got
Right.
like he's got
His
his own
entourage
he has
is
his vlogger there,
right,
and
right.
the guy was like over my shoulder, and I didn't even think about it, but somebody finally said, can
You
you
can't
step
do
back?
that,
Because he was
yeah.
like shooting over my shoulder. Could have been looking at my hand.
Yeah, I mean, usually if they're gonna go to
But
that
he was a
much,
cool guy. I really liked him, and we had a really crazy game after the stream. I have to say, it was kind of sick what happened after the stream. Which
yeah, so many people tell me it's like, oh, the wild stuff comes after the stream. It's like, well, one, people play differently on stream. Two, when people start the stream, they play more ABC, and then as the hands progress, that's when the chemistry starts and rivalries start.
I think what happens is people play a
Great
certain way
fold,
on.
great fold. This is
Thank
why I
you.
had it. I just didn't have this stuff in my
I did get a little. I will say this. In all those situations with him, like I felt like I got some information live. I don't remember exactly what. Oh, this guy Mike was great.
Oh, okay. So that's the last
Oh,
one, and back on
he doubled
us.
me up, but that wasn't. He was a great guy anyway, but he also doubled me up. So
And Too Deep LA also says, Julie's great. You act fine and are fun. Sandy Joy says,
thank you.
Julie is hooked on LATB, and we are hooked on Julie.
I
See?
love it.
Eh?
Yay.
See, that's why.
No, it's like, I mean, listen, I don't, it's nice to say positive things, but it's mostly because when I've looked, it's all been hate.
Not, yeah, but the thing is, it's different
But I've heard
because
that from other people too, so it's not like,
I humanize people on the show.
no, but like last week I looked and I was like, oh, there's some really mean stuff, but then
Yeah.
there was another player at the table who I just can't even believe what
Oh,
they
yeah.
were hating on.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, I mean, that's terrible too, but there was a whole history I didn't know there.
Kevin Robinson, Julie Sexy AF.
Oh, nice,
Alec
nice.
Turley's cousin. Not really Alec Turley's cousin. Julie Single hit my DM. Yeah, see?
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm not even filtering.
Save
See?
them.
Jesus Guerrero says, you playing tomorrow, Julie?
No, I'm not playing tomorrow. I have other commitments.
Okay, here's the meanest one.
I think I'm going to play Friday.
Blub says, Julie Schmooly. That's the meanest one.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
I don't know.
Shmooly.
And Jesus Guerrero says, I love watching Julie. So,
Okay.
all right, I think that's going to wrap it up. Hope you
Okay.
guys enjoyed it. There were plenty of thumbs up. 29-7. It's plenty good ratio.
That's nice.
Seven
I
people
think
are all my family members. So
what
don't
I
worry.
really like is I really like the community around Live at the Bike, and I agree. I think it's like a really great. It's cool that all these people like tune in and watch and like comment. I think it's great. Even if they say mean things, even if they troll me, it's like, no, I really mean it. I think
Yeah.
it's great because I think there's like, it creates a community.
Yeah, we do what we can. Mostly Brian Arakaki, the director, shout out to him.
He's awesome.
And Patrick Curran.
It's such a good team. Like,
Yeah, they kick out the mean people, and when I'm in here, I talk back and kick people out too. So we do what we can.
Well, there's mean and like, I don't know if you heard, but Vertucci was like told a bad joke the other day, and we were like, and I said, "There's the line." He
Tasteless
said,
joke or
no,
bad
and he
joke?
said we always tell tasteless jokes, but he's like, he said that he's nicknamed Funny Too Far, like funny too far.
Right.
And I think there's same thing with the comments, like cool too. And I laugh sometimes at the comments.
Yeah, I
They're
think
like,
they're funny.
even if they're mean about me, like sometimes they're By the way, if you're going to be mean, at least be super clever. Because
Right. No, that's what
I
I say.
appreciate good writing.
Yeah.
So even if you're going to be mean, like, make it clever. Don't just be
I
like, she
literally say
sucks.
that. Like, I love
Bad
reading the
fold.
ones that are like clever, but it's just so
She
hard.
sucks, bad fold, bad outfit. I was wearing, oh, I know what it was. I was wearing, Art and I were laughing so hard about it because I was wearing this like velour sweatshirt thing because I was cold
Hmm.
and it's all I had in my bag. I didn't really think about it. And everyone was like, is she wearing a bathrobe? I was like I'd wear a bathrobe. By the way,
It's a
very
fashion thing.
expensive, high fashion sweatshirt, I might
High
add.
quality.
High quality. I am a fashionista sometimes.
So here's a question from Pokerology. Why does Julie seem intimidated by Garrett and Alec Torelli? Were you?
It wasn't that I was intimidated by, it was specifically you asked me, are there players you're intimidated by?
Yeah.
And I said Garrett because Garrett, I think because in person with me, but also like I've seen him play major hands with really good players and make like sick reads. Like
Sure.
I'm not the only one that like has noticed that about Garrett.
Yeah.
And he's not the only player that does that, but I think he's really talented in that way. That's also why I said that about like Brian Kim, like respect. So
Right.
Alex really I wasn't intimidated by. I just never played with him and I hadn't done my homework. I didn't really even know he was playing.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything about him. So like people were saying stuff and I was like, I don't know what that's about. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
he's a really nice guy in person. He was super sweet and like nice, but every time I was in a hand with him, it was like the Yo Viral thing. I was like, did he get there every time?
Yeah.
He couldn't have gotten there every time. And
They
so,
can.
like I said, and even in the, you know, I didn't put him unnecessarily queens, but when he made that big raise, he could have had obviously jacks, queens, kings, aces. There's like
So many.
four hands, but I did put him. He could have also had like any combination of ace, queen, ace, king.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I think you know,
Flipping or
flipping
whatever.
or
You see a
whatever.
flop
And
and
I
you're
just
fine.
I had played so many hands with him where I folded to him and I folded
Gotta take a
correctly.
stand.
No, I folded correctly that I finally had like a decent pair that I was like gonna like, you know, and run it. And he was like, "Can we run it twice? Can we run it twice?" So I thought for sure I was like
Ahead.
maybe a little ahead. But anyway, the point is I wasn't intimidated by him. I was just unprepared for playing with him, and it seemed like not with any other player at the table, but with me, he just kept getting involved and kept. I felt pushed around.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel
Some.
people coming and push you around.
Yeah, and sometimes they're just dealt the
And I
cards.
don't feel like with really great players like Garrett or Andy or Art or like whoever, I don't feel pushed around. I just feel like
Poker.
they're playing their hands and in
Yeah.
spots they're taking advantage of knowing that like whatever hesitation they see in me, whatever. Guys, I'm working on my game. Like I'm trying to like
Everybody can
get
stand
better.
out.
And by the way, like I realize even looking at that, some of the things you just showed me, like I've worked on some of those live tells because
Oh no, I know.
I
Yeah.
know that from looking at it on the stream, I know I've picked up a few things about my own play.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
hey,
Because
just getting better, trying to get better all the time. You know, we talk a lot about what defines like a pro, right? Like
oh yeah.
I don't want to be a poker pro because I have a really all-consuming job that takes a lot of my
Sure.
demands a lot of time and focus. But what does define a pro in your opinion?
This is, I mean, it's been a long, age-long debate, and some people say it's like such a ridiculous term because I guess people define it by if it's your main source of income, but then like the variance is so high and so many people go broke is like who's really a pro? It's just like it's so
Right.
tough. And then there's also the debate of whether you're a purist pro, like, like Garrett especially, he just plays, he doesn't do anything else. Dan Zach, at least he was commentating, whatever. So if you get subsidized for that, does that count towards, you being a pro? And that's an age-long debate too, because I used to be a professional gamer, but there's other aspects of gaming, like if you're a streamer slash entertainer,
Right.
who knows? And just so it's like, I guess if your main, I think the community needs to help define this too. If your main source of income is poker and poker related, or poker related, then technically you're a professional poker player. But if you're losing, you kind of have to revoke your own status, right?
Exactly. That's what I say. I'm like, I've seen pros and they like aren't good, and then I've seen some rec players who are way better than some
Yeah.
pros I know. But I think for me, I'm not trying to do any of that. But I do want to hold my own in certain games. And when people ask me, they're like, "Well, what do you?" I say I play with a lot of pros, and overall, like I'm a winning player. So like I have to look at that and say, okay, I'm doing okay. But I have a lot to learn. I like definitely, you know. By the way, what's most challenging is trying to talk like
Oh, it's
analysis.
so
Like
many
I don't even know how to analyze. Like I can only tell you in the time. You know, I know. I basically think that, you know, it's just about trying to improve upon it for me, and I hope for a lot of people out there too. That's why they watch, probably.
So it's a good point you touched up on the pro thing because there's a lot of rec players who I know are winning players because I watch them play and know their situations. They don't tilt. They're just there to, like my patent attorney, shout out to James Hurt. He's a recreational player. He wins. Like he's better than, most pros, but he also is a patent attorney and he used to be a software engineer. So it's like you don't have to leave. You could just like make like side income, so to say, or just have fun.
Yeah.
And also Cyrus Namani, he plays on Live at the Bike as well. Obviously winner, but he has his main business and just comes here to vent, so to say. But the thing is, playing for a living and being a winning player are two totally different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like if you're playing for a living, it's your primary source of income. Like the strategy important, emotional endurance, possibly even more important, and then game selection even more important than that. And just like if you get subsidized like I do in like multiple aspects and like I'm winning at poker but it's so small compared to like the subsidies because as a house player you don't even play like I don't know maybe even 30-40% of the time so you're just like
Right.
collecting and then I'm doing all the other work so it's just a life choice.
Yeah. But I just think it's, about what are your personal goals, like what do you want out of it
Right.
for people. And so
um
that's why I can take the heat. Like I would love to be, if I was going to be a pro, I'd want to be a tournament pro and like play full time, but it's so hard to make money
yeah.
playing for tournaments full time.
Oh
Like
yeah, the
those
variance is just
people,
way too high.
and like even I have friends like my ex-husband who's one of my best friends, and he'll be like, "How'd you do in your tournaments?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't cash." And he's like, "Oh, you're not doing very well." It's like, no, no, no. I played well. I like, you have to get so lucky in so many
Yeah.
spots, and so like I love. It's just hard for people to understand. Like, I loved what I talked about it the other day, like what Bart posted about, like his hourly about,
Oh, the World Series hourly. Yeah, he's finally a winning player for
and like you
tournaments.
go and you win so much money, and then it's, on your pace.
Yeah, at least he's honest about
Anyway,
it.
it's like, it's just, everybody's got a different goal in mind.
So, can I answer a couple of questions
Yes.
and then wrap it up?
Okay.
Pokerology says, Julie, what's your biggest win cash or tournament?
Um, hmm. I think tournament wise, not very big at all. I play a lot of like these like I have friends who do these like monthly home tournaments, and sometimes like the cash prizes get like nice, like for you buy them for a couple $100, but you can win
A
like
few thousand.
10K, and
Yeah.
I've won those a few times. But I don't really play enough tournaments to like. I've played big ones, but I haven't cashed in any real big ones. Cash wise, I've done. I don't know.
I
I
don't even
hate to
know
say
mine.
it. Like, I mean, it's just weird. Like, not that anybody's watching. I've also lost, so the
Yeah, no,
government's
I
watching.
remember all my losses.
Um,
I don't remember my wins.
I don't play big enough to like. I don't play like at the super nosebleed stakes. So, anywhere from 20, 30, 40K, something like that in a session. So,
Ken's in the chat, Ken Hartono. So
Ken,
he
hi
says,
Ken.
I like being around and enjoy your company, Julie.
Oh, we love Ken.
Yeah,
I
we
wish
love
I had a
Ken.
glass of vino for him. Guy has great tasted wine.
Patrick Kern says, Wayne is a professional. Professional. No, but there's definitely,
Patrick Earn said the funniest thing to me though after
he's funny. Yeah.
there was one week where we played the Hollywood Writer game and it was like a 1-3 game.
Yeah.
And then the next week I played like the Friday game and it was like a 50-100, 100 or
Yeah.
something. And he's like,
You ran it up.
he's like, I've never seen somebody play such like
Like,
the
yeah.
like polarizing stakes. And I'm like, well, I was just playing the Writer game because it was
I've
like
done that on the
that.
show too. I play the 2-3 and I've played all the way up to 25-50, I believe. But it's just like, and I treat every single game seriously. And the thing is, the writer's game, I think
Yeah.
you even said this too.
No, I didn't play that game very well.
No, but like, I think Tony was like, oh, Wayne's cutthroat. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like trying to take it easy here.
The problem I had was I was just playing my game. Like I was
Yeah.
coming in like all cylinders, like guns blazing, and I was so aggressive. And I think I should have adjusted to that game better. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, and this is like a really bad thing, and I think a really good lesson for everybody. I really felt badly for in my own playing when I disrespect money like that. Like it shouldn't be about money; it should be about the chips.
Chips, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when I was put to the test, like when I had like and I knew I had like maybe 20% equity in the hand, like there was a hand with you and Aaron where you guys were all in with Ace King, and I had like 9-10 suited on the
Oh
button,
yeah, yeah, and you
and
sucked out on us.
I
Just
sucked
kidding.
out.
I'm kidding.
But by the way, I didn't know I had like double the equity
Oh
I
yeah,
thought I
you were
had.
positive. She was
And I
positive
was
equity in
like,
the
I
hand.
didn't know I had that at the time. Looking
Yeah,
back, I was like, I called that all day long, but it
yeah.
didn't seem like you were like 9-10. But
Oh
I
no, I'm
think,
joking.
but
Don't ever take
no,
me
I know.
seriously.
But the
Yeah,
problem is, it's like for me, it's like it's $300 to make that call. Well, that's like a standard open in the other game. So
right. Yeah,
I'm like
I
not
understand.
quite. No, but it's not good because I kind of didn't take it seriously, and before you knew it, I like donked off like 3K or something in that game.
Did
Do you
you?
know?
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No, I lost in that game.
I
It's so
was the
funny.
big
I lost in
loser.
that game and then I won like 30K the next week in the other game.
Nice.
But
That's
I
the
was
important
literally
one.
like, no, but I was literally like, I played it so stupid because it was like any raise $100. Like, oh, I'll play that. But I shouldn't, I don't, I literally learned a lesson from that particular experience because I go to friends' houses if they're playing like a little game, they're like, want to play poker? I'm like, great.
Yeah,
I just try and play, I try and respect the game, play the best version of whatever stakes it is.
right. Stugat says she is so hot.
Oh,
See, look.
that's so nice.
No, but especially, and it's been a learning process for me because I used to be, a straight cutthroat player, and then ever since I'm a broadcast slash prop slash semi-host, I have to calibrate what I'm doing with
Yeah.
who I'm playing with. Like, I don't want to lose, but at the same time, I'm not like being cutthroat at the 2-3 game. And then, like Tony says, like, oh, you're being so serious. I'm like, this is like not even close to serious for me. I'm not trying to lose. I'm trying every hand, but it's just like it's a social
But it's just
situation. And,
relative to the games he plays in, right? When you're
right,
playing friendly home
exactly.
games, one of the games I play in, my friend is like, we're not going to straddle every hand and we're not going to do this and like really regulates it because he doesn't want it to get too big and like too
Yeah,
aggressive. And I respect that because it's like that's that game. Unfortunately for us degenerates out there,
bigger and
when you're
bigger.
used to like action playing and like certain things, you get like into like, can we do like, that's what Gal and I were saying last week. Can we do a PLO flip every like and Garrett was like, unless you're doing it for $10,000, I'm
Yeah,
not doing it. I was like,
yeah,
why not do it for $10,000? But I like to do like, I like to gamble it up sometimes and play a little and get like a little action going. But you have to respect what every game is, right?
So yeah, a story about Garrett. He's told this story. I don't know if he's told it on stream, but it's a famous story. Like he was super buried like one day. This is like a long time ago, and he asked for $100,000 flip, and then no one would do it. And then he was like, "I'll offer 2% juice," and then a group of people, which I'm not going to name, were just like pooling money together to do the flip.
Oops.
Yeah. So it's just like
And he
he's
lost.
he's very proud of the story, by the
He
way.
lost the flip?
I think he I think he lost the flip. I'm not sure, but it's more the setup to the story
Right,
that is.
exactly. I understand. But I
Yeah,
did want to know the
yeah.
ending.
Oh no, we'll ask him in the future, but I know that
But
story
he's
is
funny because
okay.
he wouldn't do the flips, and we were like, my thing is like, I want to do a bomb pot every dealer change because I think it like creates like more, like.
Actually, not a
By the
fan of
way,
bond
I mean,
pots.
huh?
Yeah, I'm
You're
not a
not?
fan of bond pots.
You
Yeah,
get such good odds, like without even.
I mean, I just think it.
I would think with all your mixed games, like you're playing any two cards, like
No,
it's
no, no, no. It's like I think like it. I think it makes people feel uncomfortable. Like I'm for the
why?
gamble or having people create action, but that particular one because it's like people just like fold like relatively strong hands in like at least the settings on Live of the Bike. So it's like, okay, if they're gonna do that, then why even do this? This is
Right.
just like a gamble for whoever flops the nuts or close to a nutted hand.
It's kind of like that, but the other thing is like you're having to pay time, right? So let's say you're in a game where you're paying $13 for time and you do a $50 bomb pot. You're only $37 more than you're gonna have to pay
Sure,
anyway.
that's
You pay
fair.
the time out of the pot, saves time. The dealer doesn't have to do the whole thing,
Wow,
and
that's
it's
very fair.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's my. I get really impatient, by the way, when a game's not moving. I love, like the other night, we asked for the shot clock in the other game, which we don't
Yeah.
normally have it in. I like when a game moves. I mean, I like to take my time in decisions when I have hard decisions. But how many times is that? Like 6 times in maybe the whole stream, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, I
And I'm
mean
going to take my time.
yeah.
That's why those buttons are you only need 4 of those. But I mean, I like the bomb pod also is, yeah, it's good for the time, for the dealer change when you have to pay time.
Yeah, Ken's stealing all your thunder now.
What's he saying?
No, people are
Everyone's,
like,
because
"Oh, we're gonna miss you, Ken. We're gonna miss
everybody
you."
loves Ken. I'm telling you, the
Yeah.
guy's really good for poker.
Patrick Curran says agree with Wayne about bomb pots. It's just like
Okay, Patrick.
it's
Well, I'm
more
gonna
like
make you play bomb pot later.
it's just in theory it's supposed to like create action, but I think in practicality it doesn't. Like maybe at lower stakes or like wild games, but just like from what we've seen on Live of the Bike, I think PLO flips are better, and hopefully there's like better ways to like I guess create action. So that's whatever. If people like it, they like it. It's just an observation. So
Sometimes you're just stuck and you're getting H1 on your money, and it's kind of like a good thing. I had aces in the bomb pile last week on the stream,
oh
and it was like so confusing what to do because somebody was betting into me, and I was like, does he have king six? Like, I mean,
yeah, no, it's happened to me too. I don't remember the two people I was with, but I had queens on a bomb pie, and somebody flopped a set of six. Oh, I remember who. Yeah, it was
you're not going to say the name.
no, yeah, whatever. Anyway, somebody flopped a set on me, and I had queens. Obviously, if it was a normal hand, it doesn't like go like this.
Right,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it
yeah,
takes some of the strategy out. Like, it's an equalizing thing a little bit.
answered all these. Okay, so we'll wrap it up,
No more
and
questions?
you got to know Julie
Okay.
and a little bit more insight on Hollywood, but it's a very deep chapter, and this is just two point of views, and I'm not even there
It's
yet. So,
true. I have a lot of years of.
I actually am more on IMDb for acting than
Are you
screenwriting, which is
really? What have you
I,
been in?
I was on Funny or Die, and I told you I'm on National Geographic Brain
Oh, yeah,
Games,
I
and
want to
Ted
watch that.
Danson was there, and Keane Michael Key, and I was looking at their credits, and they're like, boom. I'm like, all right, I got two.
Well, yeah,
I've
I
seen.
mean,
I was also on How I Met Your Mother,
they've.
thanks to Jamie
Oh,
Ronheimer.
that's right. That's right. That's so funny.
But yeah, we'll keep it the grind, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.